Day. We got a loud crowd. Okay. Loud crowd tonight. I love it. I love it. I love it. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the South Windsor Town Council regular meeting on Monday, July 17th at 7 p.m. I'd like to have the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And in my mayor's remarks this evening on item number 4, we have boards and commissions and committees openings, and Councilor Siracusa will be coming up to receive these. What? Roll call. I always forget roll call. Go ahead. Amanda?
Councilor Evans?
Here.
Councilor Kabowski? Councilor Lopez?
Here.
Mayor Pendleton?
Present.
Deputy Mayor King?
Here.
Councilor Kozakowski?
Here.
Councilor Leidecker?
Okay. I'm going to wait on those openings until after our councilors are sitting. I would like to say that we did have flooding here in South Windsor that affected some of our farmland. So I would like for any folks that experience any flooding of any crops, commercial farmers in the town of South Windsor, please contact the town manager's office at 860-644-2511-2303. Please get in touch with Mr. Maniscalco, who can further help and assist with any crops that may have been lost due to the flooding. And now moving on, Councilor Lopez, adoption of the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move for the adoption of the agenda for today's Town Council meeting.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Deputy Mayor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to have the council look, I'd like to move new business items number 13B and C to follow number 15.
No, number 5.
Number 5, excuse me.
Yep, number 5.
Thank you so much. And as well as to move executive session, which is number 17, A and B to follow number 7, please.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. Thank you. So now is the big evening, the big event of the evening is swearing in of our council members. So I'd like to suspend the meeting at this time for the swearing in of our new council members. Well, we have to pass it, right? So go to 13B, please. And we have Deputy Mayor King. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. New business. B, resolution appointing Matthew Siracusa to the Town Council effective July 17th, 2023. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby appoints Matthew Siracusa in accordance with Section 208 of the South Windsor Town Charter to the Town Council effective July 17th, 2023 for a term ending November 13th, 2023 to fill the unexpired term of Jamie Gamble, whose resignation on June 20, 2023 has already been accepted by the South Windsor Town Council.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Item 13C, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution appointing Anitha Longo to the Town Council effective July 17th, 2023. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby appoints Anitha Longo in accordance with Section 208 of the South Windsor Town Charter to the Town Council effective July 17th, 2023 for a term ending November 13th, 2023 to fill the unexpired term of Andrew Paterna, whose resignation on June 26, 2023 has already been accepted by the South Windsor Town Council.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. Thank you. The motion carries. And now I'd like to make a motion to, go ahead. You want to make a motion? Okay. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the regular council meeting at this time to swear in our new council members with our town clerk, Ms. Bonnie Armstrong. Is there a second? Any discussion? Not seeing any? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any. The motion carries. Thank you. So, Ms. Bonnie Armstrong, our town clerk, if you could please call up Matthew Saracusa.
All right. If you'll please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully discharge, according to law, your duties as town councilor for the town of South Windsor to the best of your ability, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Found pin. Nothing goes above the flag, so it always goes below the flag. So work with pride. There you go. Congratulations. And now we'll wait for Anita.
All right. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully discharge, according to law, your duties as town councilor for the town of South Windsor to the best of your ability, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Right there. Congratulations. And now we can take pictures with their wonderful families. If you'd like to have pictures, you can come up here. We can take pictures with the whole council, however you folks want it. What would you like? You, council members, why don't we come down here, and you guys can stand right down here. Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. Come on up. Come on up. Yep. Amanda, you want to take a photo? Amanda's taking a picture. Perfect. Big smiles. Great, thank It is. All right, Miss Anita, come on up. And then, no, just. Counselors? And then you guys, if you like, just the three of you. We'll leave you guys alone. Go ahead. Do your thing. That's a Christmas card too. And now you're welcome to join us here and to turn your name tags around.
Right, want to turn hers around, Erica? If she's like me, she doesn't. If she was like me, she doesn't know what she's about to do. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, where am I supposed to go? Why am I swearing? I don't swear anything. What's happening? I believe in Jesus. I'm not swearing anything.
Go get some ice cream. Bye, sweet pea. Go get some ice cream. Thank you, families, for joining us this evening on this memorable moment. And welcome to our new counselors. It's
Watch your
awesome.
flash, Anita,
What?
the flash on her phone.
Is it her flash or just a reflection from the light?
No,
Oh, okay. She's going to arrive late, but that's okay. Karen's coming. She's just going to be a little late. Yep. Sorry, ma'am. There you go. Just let you guys get settled in for a second. We're all settled in? All right. Now we'll call the meeting back to order. Now we can have the communications and reports from the town manager, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In terms of just wanted to let everybody know that Pleasant Valley School demolition is over the coming weeks. The demolition of the old Pleasant Valley School is scheduled to start along with landscaping and final site work. Residents traveling in and around the area should use caution as there will most likely be large equipment moving in and out of the site, as well as a lot of activity causing for a distraction. It's my understanding things should be done over the next 6 weeks. Just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of the 240 Deming Street public hearing. Last week, the public hearing was held for the housing project at 240 Deming Street. There was a significant turnout for the public comment section of the meeting. As a result, for the upcoming meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission will need to move their location to better accommodate the large crowd. At this time, the staff are thinking the community center may be the final location, but it may also be held at one of the schools. So keep your eyes out for where that exact location is going to be. Also wanted to report on Beelzebub Road that I'm pleased to report the paving on Beelzebub Road has been completed. There's still sidewalk work and driveway cuts that need to be completed, and that'll occur over the coming weeks, but paving overall has been done. And then lastly, the police department and community center parking lots. These projects are well underway, and I'd like to recognize everyone's efforts to make these projects a success. Both the Department of Public Works and our contractors have made significant efforts to help keep these important facilities operational while completing their parking lots. They've even gone so far as having a golf cart to transport senior residents to the community center, and there have been some of the contractors who have personally helped residents hand in hand across the construction areas. And then lastly, one item that I did not provide to all of you in my written report, it's been brought to my attention by a number of staff that there's been a number of instances where residents have been less than kind to some of our employees in town, and it's gotten to the point that it's raised some concern with some of our employees, and I just wanted to reach out to the community as a whole and to the council as a whole and remind everybody that while you may not be receiving the information you want, it's the information that those individuals are required to provide to you. They may be fulfilling a job, and I think that as long as we can all remember that we're all doing the best that we possibly can and try to treat everybody with kindness and respect, I think that would go a long way.
Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. Does anybody have any questions for the town manager? Deputy Mayor King, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just two questions. One is in regards to the Pleasant Valley School demolition. Thank you for your report, first of all. So the next 6 weeks I have down as September 1st or 2nd of 2023. When does school start? Does anybody know offhand?
I think it's
The end of
towards
August.
the end of August.
Of August, right?
Correct.
That's what
This is site work. I mean, this is exterior site work. It's not the interior.
Right, but my
items.
inquiry, which is a follow-up, which would be question number 2, is do we plan to have signage up for the different areas of where people, obviously this is going to be a whole new thing, so where people go.
Do you mean
How
for
they need
like
to get
student
there.
drop-off and things of that nature?
Exactly.
I will follow up to make sure, but I'm pretty sure there should be.
Okay, just as long as it's, and usually it's like right in, before certain streets, but I would suggest probably 2 streets ahead of, even going back to where perhaps even, not so far as the Coca-Cola building, but Bears, or something to that effect.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor King. Councilor Evans.
Thank you. I just wanted to touch on the VMP parking. I know on another note, besides that, I have been spending quite a bit of time there. I've heard from a lot of families very complimentary, positive things about just our pools and that we have this offered to the town. Most families have adjusted to having that back space available. My concern more, and I know Councilor Kowalski, who's not here, the concern is for the seniors or people with mobility issues. I have seen individuals in walkers or, having to be walked up the backside who then have to travel down a very large hill. Is there anything we are working toward to make the front more accessible for those individuals?
Yes, so we are working on trying to identify the appropriate signage that we could put up in that front parking lot, kind of as you and I had discussed, that would make the front parking area for individuals with mobility issues only. That would not be enforceable, of course, but it would be the kind of thing that we could identify those spots and hope that everybody, out of the kindness of their heart, for the most part, would allow individuals who need that extra help getting in and out those locations.
Perfect. Yeah, I know like at the YMCA in Ellington, or I had taken my children to the Mark Twain House, they have some signs that say parking for those with mobility, I forget the exact wording, and so something like that would be ideal. Of course, not enforceable, but just to ask the public to try to leave that front lot available for the senior citizens who would only have that one hill to go up and then would be at the flat level of the pool area and not have to travel down a large hill again to get to access the pool. And also, I've been hearing a lot of questions about the splash pad. Could we just get an update on where that is?
Sure. So we have the construction started. Unfortunately, the contractor that we've been working with, and that's a subcontractor of the company that we actually purchased the splash pad through, has not been showing up when we've been scheduling for him to show up. We do have a phone call scheduled with the actual company that we contracted the splash pad with to have a serious conversation about performance and whether they're going to be able to get this done or not and what the penalties associated with that will be. So we are working as diligently as possible at making a contractor that's not meeting our expectations, meet our expectations.
How much flexibility or do we have with that contract? Are we locked into that? Have we paid?
Well, so we've paid for a portion of the splash pad, because we've actually received the pieces, the physical pieces of it. What's remaining is the company that we purchased the splash pad through, they subcontracted with somebody. So it's not actually even a contract that we have with that individual, it's a subcontract to somebody else. So we need to figure out the finer points of that, and we're gonna have a serious conversation over the coming weeks.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Evans. Councilor Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Town Manager, for the report. I have a couple of questions. One of them is the 240 Deming Street public hearing. The two locations that are being thought about, do they have streaming capabilities?
I believe they should be able to.
And if it's a school, what is the thought process of that? Is that like a classroom or the cafeteria? Because I'm hearing that the crowd might be bigger on that day than what it was here.
My understanding is they were looking at a cafeteria, but they weren't sure the cafeteria was even going to be big enough, so they were looking at the community center room, but they're not sure if that's even going to be big enough. So we'll have to, I haven't heard if they've finalized that location today or not yet, so.
Okay, thank you. And my other question was about the school demolition. Is this going to be like one big detonation, explosion, or in pieces?
I think they're going to take it.
What do you want?
Unfortunately, I believe it's going to be piece by piece. It won't be as grand as one big explosion, so.
All right, thank you.
Good Lord, cell phones was exploding, right? Is there any other questions for the town manager? Deputy Mayor King.
Yeah, just a follow-up to Councilor Evans' question in regards to, I just want to know, is there a plan B? I mean, I understand the subcontracting, I get that. However, I do remember, was it Vernon that had issues with a contractor and then they couldn't get anything done for months on end? And so I'm worried about that. Do we have to worry about that, or do we have a plan B that holds them accountable if we have to go to another contractor?
We will have a plan B by the end of the week with our phone conversation, so, yeah.
Good enough, thank you.
I like the way you said that. All right. Is there any other conversations or questions that you'd like to have with the town manager? Not hearing any at this time, we'll move on. Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. Public input. Public input shall not exceed 30 minutes unrecognized by myself. The speaker shall approach the lectern, give their name and address. Speakers shall avoid personal attacks or impugning or alleging improper motives to any person. The speaker may address the council on any item on the agenda. The speaker shall limit their speaking time to 5 minutes. I invite anyone from the public to come up to the lectern right here and state your name and address. There is a microphone on the there's a button on the base of the microphone that you can hit, and it will turn the microphone on. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak to the council on any item on the agenda? Please.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. My name is Kathy Doherty. I live at 12 Roy Road. I was unable to attend the 2 meetings where we had 2 very distinguished members of our town council resign, Jamie Gamble and Andy Paterna. I'd like to thank them for their service to our town, for the sacrifice that they made and the time commitment that they gave. But I'd also like to thank their families for the countless hours that they put in to support them in their endeavors to improve South Windsor. Also, congratulations to Matt Siracusa and to Anitha Alongo. I'm sure you guys will be a welcome addition to our council. At the last council meeting, there was discussion regarding the monumental tax increase we as residents saw for our 23-24 fiscal year, both in car and property taxes. The mayor asked the town manager to explain reevaluation and the impact it had on taxes, so I appreciate that. We are all aware that reevaluation takes place every 5 years, and the council is in no way responsible for reevaluation. However, when it does happen, the mill rate increases or decreases depending on the spending. If spending had flatlined, the mill rate would have gone down significantly, approximately to 28 or 29 mills, but it did not. The year-over-year spending increased approximately $11 million. $11 million increase is the number the council approved. Spending is out of control. Reevaluation is not the culprit. Fiscal responsibility and control is, which ties into the agenda item today where the council is dissolving the Parks and Rec Facility and Implementation Committee and passing it on to the Public Building Commission. As a member of both of these committees, I have concerns. First of all, the Public Building Commission is having to schedule additional meetings to meet the needs of the Pleasant Valley School. Taking on a new task and responsibility at this time is not a good idea. As a member of the Parks and Rec Facility and Implementation Committee, we were charged with the task of coming up with a temporary solution for a home for Parks and Rec. And that where Parks and Rec had to move out of Wapping to make way for the ever-growing high school population. We were also tasked with finding a long-term solution. The short-term solution, quick, easy, because there were very few options. Work was done to deed over Orchard Hill School to the town to allow for structural changes and to make it an appropriate space for Parks and Rec. There's still more work to be done. The committee then took on the task of determining where to put a permanent home. We hired a project manager to assist us to make sure the space would check all the boxes. We spent $20,000 to do so. The committee looked into the Priest property, Nevers Road Park, and the current location of Parks and Rec on Foster Street. We also looked outside the box and considered purchasing LA Fitness to house some programs and using the existing Park and Rec building for other programs. Very preliminary drawings were done, and we were given an estimate for building a totally new facility north of $60 million up to $80 million. That was a year ago. Prices have increased. Also, let's remember that not one penny of this cost will be reimbursed by the state. At our last meeting in October of 2022, after doing all the tasks asked of us, it was decided by unanimous vote that we would wait until the Parks and Rec Department distributed a survey, which was hopefully going to be part of the larger survey done by the Strategic Planning Committee in January 2023. This committee has not been invited back to the table. The council is now asking the Public Building Commission to identify and study the same thing we did not even a year ago. I'm asking tonight that you table this resolution on the agenda tonight. Convene a meeting of the Public Building Commission, Parks and Rec Commission, Park and Rec Facility Planning and Implementation Committee, and the Town Council. This will help bring transparency to the issue with the goal of saving time, saving money, avoiding redundancy, and duplicating efforts. Further, knowing that the price tag of this proposed project is estimated at $60 to $80 million, an affirmative vote on this resolution that you have on your agenda tonight says to taxpayers that you are okay with saddling us as residents with $80 million. Is now the right time for this project when we were just hit with the largest tax increase in the state of Connecticut? Thank you.
Excuse me, is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to the town council?
My name is Toby Lewis. I'm with 32 Linda Lane, South Windsor, Connecticut. Again, congratulations, Matt and Anita. You are a welcome addition. Tonight on the agenda, there is the motion to dissolve Parks and Recreation Facility Planning and Implementation Committee, as well as moving forward to having the Public Building Commission make a recommendation to the council as to next steps. As Kathy Doherty said, as the chair of Parks and Rec Commission, it is important that all stakeholders be at the table. The Parks and Rec Commission has recently met, and we feel that we have members who've been on the commission for many years, and we should have multiple people from the commission at the table, whatever's happening for our future. That's what we've been doing, and we would strongly ask that you would, whatever you do next, that you would include several members of the Parks and Rec Commission to be on that board. It wouldn't be fair if I left without saying something about also the taxes. I'm now in a different situation. I'm a one-income person in a two-income lifestyle. Recently, as my wife has left, and when she passed away, and I paid off the house. Taxes alone, I can barely make ends meet, and I earn a decent living. Usually when a town raises taxes, they lower the mill rate, as Ms. Doherty was saying. Something needs to be done. It's not right. It's not good for the citizens. I know it's a struggle for me, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to the council on any item on the agenda?
Good evening, and welcome to Matt and Anissa. My concern tonight is not with the individual being appointed, but my concerns do lie with the process. As I looked at tonight's agenda, there was one item that was missing. What is missing is the resignation of Anissa Elongo from the Public Building Commission. No one can serve on a board or commission and the town council at the same time. So where is the resignation? How do we know that the resignation was submitted? It is not on this agenda, and it was not voted on. Why is that? Past practice has been that any resignation from a board or commission is read by the council and accepted by the council. I was expecting to hear during the adoption of the agenda, when the deputy mayor made changes or moved the agenda up, that the resignation of Ms. Elongo from the Public Building Commission would be added. Why wasn't it? Is this government in secrecy? This council must accept a resignation from any board or commission prior to someone being appointed to the town council. Anyone nominated by one of the political parties and appointed by this council to a board or commission must resign, and the council must accept the resignation prior to the nominated individual is seated on the council. Again, as I looked at tonight's agenda, I was pleasantly surprised to see a discussion item regarding charter revisions. I hope this discussion will be more about trying to solve the issue and not continue to circumvent the charter with the discussion and resolution about waiving the bidding process. This discussion should include discussing a charter revision commission. The charter, as we all know, is fiscally outdated, especially when it comes to the issue at hand in purchasing. We need to properly address this purchasing issue. So I would ask, if you pass the resolution to circumvent the charter, that you make your best arguments for and against opening the charter. perhaps you would consider making an amendment to tonight's resolution to commit to forming a charter review committee, then pursuing a straightforward resolution to the purchasing issue. Several towns around South Windsor have opened their charter, and the world did not fall around them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dolnick. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to the council on any item on the agenda? Going twice. Anyone else from the public would like to speak to the council? Anyone else from the public? Not seeing anyone, we'll move on. We are now on 17A and B, please. Deputy Mayor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move that we go into executive session 17A to discuss a personnel issue agreement between the town of South Windsor and South Windsor Non-Supervisory Professional Employees Union, which is an affiliate of the Nutmeg Independent Public Safety Employees Union, as well as 17B to discuss attorney-client privilege communication regarding 460 Miller Road. I'd like to invite the town manager, Michael Maniscalco, as well as the assistant town manager, Mr. Roberts, as well as any other appropriate personnel that's deemed necessary to have this conversation.
And do we need to be specific? Yes, invite the town attorney and
The town attorney, definitely, please.
Vanessa Perry.
And Mrs. Perry.
You got it.
And Vanessa Perry also, Director of HR.
Vanessa's here?
Yes.
Hey, yes, Vanessa, we need you to come in too. So the
Is
four
there-
of you, thank you.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Thank you. We shall return right after executive session, folks. I'd like to call the regular meeting back to order, please. We now have a public hearing to be held at 8 o'clock to receive citizen input on the design and installation of sidewalks along Birch Hill Drive and connecting to the existing nearby sidewalks on Felt Road. Is there anyone from the public that we need to have our clerk of the council please read the notice?
To be published in the Journal Inquirer, July 3rd, 2023, legal ad Town of South Windsor. Notice is hereby given that the South Windsor Town Council has set Monday, July 17, 2023 at 8 p.m. in the council chambers of the South Windsor Town Hall, 1540 Sullivan Avenue, South Windsor, Connecticut, as the time and place for a public hearing to receive citizen input on the design and installation of sidewalks along Birch Hill Drive and connecting to existing nearby sidewalks on Felt Road. Dated at South Windsor, Connecticut, this third day of July 2023, attested to by Amanda Poma, Clerk of the Council.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak in this public hearing concerning the sidewalks? Please come up to the lectern and state your name and address. Is there anyone from the public? Come on up. There's a little button right at the base of the microphone. If you turn that on, it will turn red. There you go. Just state your name and address.
Caleb Cadman, 96 Birch Hill Drive. I am strongly against having sidewalks on our road. I think that it is a solution that is permanent for a problem that doesn't exist. They are a hardscape that creates more runoff. I've lived there for 20 years. My children walked daily to and from Orchard Hill Elementary and Timothy Edwards Middle School with no issues. We continue to walk as a family and walk our dog on our street with no issues. It is a wide road, much wider than other roads that typically have sidewalks, with good sight lines. Granted, people do still drive badly on it, but that goes for every road. But my concern would be that it is expensive. Concrete is a limited resource, of which need not be wasted to solve a problem that doesn't exist. It would be disruptive to the road itself and the life along that road during the construction process. After it was installed, it would increase the maintenance needs on the people that have it in their lawn, which they would have lost some of the yard that is probably part of why they moved there. So it would, I'm assuming that it would not be on both sides of the road, in which case it would just affect everybody. Otherwise, it would disproportionately affect whatever side it is on. It creates more runoff, reducing the infiltration into the groundwater, which we all know there's been a lot of building in town lately, which every hardscape we put up, there's less groundwater going in and it runs off, carrying pollution into our surface water supplies. So again, I am strongly against it for a wide variety of reasons, and I think that it is an expensive solution to a problem that doesn't exist. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to the council? It's on. One more. There you go.
Where's the button? Oh,
You're
you can hear
fine.
me. Hi.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
My name is Paul Leiter. I am a resident at 150 Birch Hill Drive. I've been living there for the past 3 years. I am 100% for the installation of sidewalks on Birch Hill Drive. As a father of two, an avid walker, the first thing that comes to mind for the installation of sidewalks is pedestrian safety. I see children, adults of all ages utilizing the road on a daily basis. They have to contend with vehicular traffic, cars coming at quite rapid speeds up and down the road. Pretty much every day, my son and I go for a walk up to the park at Orchard Hill. Under no circumstances will I ever allow him to walk on that road. He's got to go on my shoulders. There's just not enough space on that road for me to walk with my son hand in hand. So for me, it's a sensible and almost non-argumentative route to follow is to install the sidewalks along Birch Hill Drive. Ease of access is another thing that we can start talking about, making more accessible, connecting the schools to the rest of the Orchard Hill neighborhood. I don't know why Birch Hill Drive was left out of the sidewalk planning of South Windsor. Doesn't make sense, but it makes sense to include it. But just in summary of what I was saying initially, pedestrian safety and ease of access would just go a long way and improving the neighborhood. It's already a fantastic neighborhood, which is why I initially moved there, but 100% for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the council, the public hearing this evening concerning the sidewalks? Please state your name and address, sir.
Hi, Robert Nowak, 64 Birch Hill Drive. I've lived at that address for 60 years now. I was one of the last ones in the first development of Birch Hill Drive that UNR put in. 60 years ago, we didn't need sidewalks. Now, we don't need sidewalks. The reason I say that, nothing has changed in 60 years insofar as connectivity. We always had a felt road in Foster Street. We always had Orchard Hill and Timothy Edwards. Nothing has changed. I look at the reasons that were put on this paper, why you might want to put your sidewalks in, and I have to laugh a little. Students and pedestrians create connectivity. Well, we have buses that take care of connectivity for the students, so they don't have to walk up and down the streets in the winter time or anything like that. And as so far as connectivity, if you just walk down Felt Road a little bit, Tallwood, take a left on Tallwood, they have 2 sidewalks on either side of the street that connect Felt with Foster Street. It'll pop you up right at Orchard Hill School. So that would solve the connectivity problem. Now, the other thing is recreational. It's going to enhance recreational uses. That's pretty hard to understand what that means. We have parks all over the place, ball fields all over the place. We have Nevers Park. If you want to walk, you can ride your bicycle there. You can push your children. You can take your dogs out there. There's a dog park up on top of the hill. So if you just want exercise, we have all those facilities without walking on sidewalks up and down Birch Hill Drive. I think another serious concern that property owners have is during the winter. I assume it's going to be our responsibility to take care of the sidewalks insofar as keeping the snow off and throwing ice melt down. I have about 200 feet of front in my yard. And right now, I'm 86 years old. I have certain health problems. And for me to take on 200 feet of snow and ice after the plows are gone would be just about impossible. So you say, okay, hire a contractor. Well, did you ever try to get a contractor to get out of his heated cab and get out and walk and shovel or anything like that? It doesn't happen. They love to drive up and down, make 3 passes and charge you $75. So that's another burden that a homeowner would have. Insofar as aesthetics, obviously, sidewalks are ugly, let's face it. After 2 or 3 years, they crack, grass grows over them, weeds pop up. It's a maintenance headache. Just drive up and down Felt Road and take a look and see what sidewalks look like after 10, 12 years. I have a personal problem I would have. 50 years ago, we planted some red maples. They were about that high. They're on our property as opposed to the town's property. They're 60 feet high now, and they have a shallow root system. If you know anything about maple trees, the roots go out, they don't go down like oaks. If the backhoes come in there and start digging for sidewalks, I'm afraid I would lose those 2 trees. but that's my problem. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to the council at the public hearing this evening concerning the sidewalks on Birch Hill?
Karen Cadman, 96 Birch Hill Drive. I also am against the sidewalks. I think they take up a lot of space. I think they would encroach a lot on the yards. I agree with him with regards to the greenery that we have in our yard, blueberry bushes and pawpaw trees and all these things that we might lose as things get much closer, towards, coming into our yard. I think maintenance is an issue. I walk along Tallwood and there are concrete parts of the sidewalk there that are marked with X's that haven't been replaced in years, and the X that looks like they should be replaced has started to fade, and they're cracked, and nothing has been done to fix those. So I would assume that that would happen on our street as well. So I am against it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else this evening that would like to speak at the public hearing?
Hello, my name is Lucy Ignani. I live at 111 Birch Hill Drive. And I also am opposed to the sidewalks. When our development was built, no grading was ever put in place to consider sidewalks. And I know this because we had such a difficult time getting the grading for our driveway to get the water to go out to the street. And now to even think that, we may end up having a sidewalk going across, that will completely disrupt any flow. But also, if you look at the landscape of Birch Hill, it's not flat. My property is elevated along with quite a few going down the street, and sidewalks, when you put them in, obviously you're only dealing with that first, 6 feet? So now you have a lot of other property that is going to be adversely affected by this. And we're kind of talking blind because we don't even know what the plan is, or, where they want to do it or what they're proposing. But just in my yard, I've got a sprinkler system. And then I was looking at this and thinking, what about oil delivery? They have to go up the hill to get to my fill pipe. And someone was saying, well, maybe they'll put a wall on your side. Well, a wall would be a problem, But I really think the nature of Birch Hill, it's a beautiful street, and it was never designed to have sidewalks. And we've survived all this time without them, without any issues. And I think we can go a little bit more without, and I totally agree. It's, the upkeep of a sidewalk is a lot of work, and that's putting a lot of pressure on the homeowners. And you do have a lot of original homeowners on that street. And I think that that's a hardship. And so I am, again, against putting the sidewalks on Birch Hill. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Hi, Mark Stanley, 54 Birch Hill. I don't want to rehash all the things that all these people have already said, but my wife and I just moved here back in February. One of the things that drew us to Birch Hill Drive is that it is a very bucolic setting, and I think this would be one more encroachment by the world of concrete and asphalt and all that. I think it would be real out of place in the neighborhood, and there's really, I don't think, a big desire for it, as you can tell from the commenters that by and large people don't see the need for it. So, and it is a maintenance issue as well. Does the town maintain the sidewalks, or do we maintain the sidewalk? I think the answer is we maintain the sidewalk. So we don't want it, but we're going to have to maintain it. So other than that, I would agree with just about every comment that was made here by the rest of the people. So, thanks.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the council in the public hearing this evening? Going twice, is there anyone else that would like to speak in the public hearing concerning the sidewalks on Birch Hill? Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak in the public hearing concerning sidewalks on Birch Hill? Not seeing anyone, we'll close the public hearing at this time. And this is not a scientific poll, but just a straw poll. I'm going to ask for anyone that is in favor to please raise your hand for the sidewalks on Birch Hill. Keep them up so I can see. Thank you. And is there anyone, the ones that are opposed, could you please raise your hand? Thank you. Thank you. Now moving on in our agenda. We're now on to item number 8, please. Councilor Lydecker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Adoption of minutes of previous meeting. Approval of the July 3rd, 2023 Town Council meeting minutes. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the minutes of the regular Town Council meeting of July 3rd, 2023.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Any corrections, deletions, additions? Councilor Lydecker?
Not a correction per se, but on page 5, underneath the discussion item 12A, unfinished business, that was quite an extensive discussion based on my recollection, and it just seems like it's a little bit minimalized in the minutes. I think Mr. Folger did talk also about what was retroactive, what would not be. So I think for purposes of the public just coming to the meeting minutes, I would just ask if we could flesh out a little bit more in 12A. Thank you.
Is there any other comments with that? So let us take a vote on that to amend the minutes to add more to 12A. Is there a second on that? Is somebody make a motion on that, please? Karen made a motion. You second it. Thank you. Any more discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Ms. Poma, if you could change the minutes to include more discussion of 12A. Thank you. And then we'll go back to accepting the minutes as changed. And any more discussion on the minutes? I don't think so. I think she'll add enough of the detail that you're looking for. We don't have to wait. Do you want to wait?
No, I agree. We just need to include a little bit more for the bullet points that Mr. Folger discussed.
Okay. So all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstain? And can we get a roll call, please?
Councilor Siracusa?
No, you got to do abstention because you weren't here at the last meeting. Well, could they, can they approve minutes even though they were, Mr. Town Attorney? Yes, because they could have watched it or read the minutes. They can go ahead and vote?
Yes, they can vote on it
Okay.
if they're familiar with this
Good.
meeting.
Okay. So do you still want to stick with your abstention or you want to vote? You want to stick with your abstention? Okay, so we'll go ahead with a roll call, please. Go ahead.
Councilor Siracusa? Councilor
Yes.
Lydecker? Yes. Councilor Kozakowski? Deputy Mayor King?
Yes.
Mayor Pendleton?
Yes.
Councilor Lopez?
Yes.
Councilor Evans?
Yes.
Councilor Alongo?
Abstain. You got to say abstain. Okay. Can we get a count, please? 7 yeses, 1 abstention. Thank you. So the motion carries. Thank you. Moving on now to item number 9. We have communications from liaisons and officers and boards directly responsible to the council. And we have an Inland Wetlands Agency Conservation Commission. Deputy Mayor King, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to have to bring a report to our next meeting only because I forgot it's in the car.
Okay.
There were several things in regards to the apartments being suggested behind Evergreen Walk. So that was one of the biggest things that was talked about in that last meeting, but I'll make sure to have that at our next meeting. I apologize for forgetting that in the car.
Thank you. Historic District Commission, Councilor Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Nothing to report, still historic.
Thank you. Moving on, we have the Social Justice and Racial Equity. Counselor Evans.
Thank you. This was my last meeting as liaison. Both myself and Counselor Deputy Mayor King attended. He'll be taking over as liaison. The group welcomed new members to the commission. They reviewed some information that had been requested of the town manager designee liaison, Vanessa Perry, as far as a survey and kind of gauging in the town the positives and the negatives, and kind of getting a gauge on the feeling, you know, of interactions within the town hall and with the staff, as well as staffing and recruiting. Additionally, we reviewed the changes in the ordinance, because with the new members coming on, they were not familiar with the ordinance, and with the previous members, there were some changes. And Chief Lindstrom also announced, I don't know if you were going to announce tonight, but they're on August 1st, is going to be National Night Out at Nevers Rotary at 5:30. I don't know if you want to share anything else about that, but the community is welcome. It's for the community, interactions with the police department, and everyone is welcome to attend.
Thank you.
I don't know if Deputy Mayor King has anything else you want to do?
No, that was it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
At this time, would you like to invite Chief Lindstrom up here to speak about National Night Out?
Would you like to come up, Chief Lindstrom, and share about?
Mention the hiring too.
Okay. Good evening, thanks for having me. As Councilor Evans mentioned, the police department for the first time in its existence is hosting or participating in the initiative National Night Out. And as the name implies, it is a national initiative. Initially, it was designed and really utilized and carried out in more urban settings. And in the last few years, I've recognized the need in South Windsor for us to continue post-pandemic amidst the police reform to connect and reconnect where we can with the community. So Sergeant Lytell is our community outreach officer, and he's jumped on board with National Night Out. So August 1st at 5 o'clock for a couple hours up at the pavilion, it will be our first go-round with National Night Out. So it's open to the public, it's free. It's just a good opportunity for people to come up, especially it's really geared towards kids. We're gonna have some static displays, vehicles up there, a bunch of our personnel will be up there. So it's just a good opportunity. Hopefully the weather cooperates, but a good opportunity for the community to come up, meet our folks, see us in a pretty lighthearted atmosphere without some of the stressors that we see sometimes when we have dealings with the public. And to Deputy Mayor King's point, one thing I wanted to add that I did mention at the meeting, there is admittedly what can be described as a national police recruiting crisis. My colleague, my peer chiefs in the area are all understaffed. Not far from here, they're trying to hire people 10 at a time. And I'm happy to report and proud to report that due to the hardworking recruiting efforts made by primarily Sergeant Cleverton, but a lot of other people in the building helping out with oral board examinations and background investigations, as of a couple weeks ago, we are fully staffed. And I don't know that there's another agency in the state, not in the state, in the area that can say the same thing. There might be some, I just don't know of them. So we're moving in the right direction. A lot of that and what we're seeing is people are applying here because of the kind of town that it is, and because of the support that we have, both from local government, from the community at large. So it's an agency and a time in our agency that I'm very proud of, and we're gonna keep doing what we do to try to keep you folks safe and satisfied. And I'm just, to Deputy Mayor King's point, I'm happy to report that and pass that along.
That's fantastic. I'm so happy to hear that.
And-
Because I know every budget year I ask you, do you need another position? Do you need another?
And we may at some point, and
Yes.
that's not for this topic, but right now,
I know.
the positions we have are full, which is,
That's
I'm very
fantastic.
happy to report that, yeah. It
He's
hasn't
telling me I
happened
went
in a
too
long
far,
time.
so I can't talk about
So,
that anymore. Can you
any-
tell us the location of National Night Out, please?
Yep, at Rotary Pavilion at Nevers Road Park.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Planning and Zoning, Councilor Kozakowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Oh, jeez. Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Planning and Zoning Commission had a few meetings since my last attendance, but two items of public interest. First, the easy one, the Planning and Zoning Commission completed the public hearing process and ended up approving a contractor flex space, industrial space at 75 Connecticut Avenue. And so that happened at the last meeting. Also at the last meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission opened a public hearing for a housing development proposed at 240 Deming Street, excuse me. The town manager discussed that process a little bit. At that meeting, the applicant was able to, made their presentation. It was about 45 minutes or so, and I ask anybody that has, or suggest that anybody that has interested in that project that wasn't able to attend the meeting to find the video on the town website through G Media. I believe it's also could be available on YouTube. So you can please take a look at that presentation, and so to better formulate, your own public comments and your own public opinion. As the town manager said, the public hearing will be moved to a larger venue to accommodate the amount of interest. It was noticed to be noticed in the paper to go to the community center, I believe. So if there's a venue change, I expect full compliance with notification requirements. And I hope to have that public hearing process to be done and conducted in a civil manner. And I just, there were, being in attendance, there was times where there was members of the public, shouting out from the audience, speaking out of turn, and just in ways disrupting the meeting. And I just hope that when this goes to a meeting next week, that type of behavior is curtailed and everybody behaves in a responsible and respectful manner. Everybody will have an opportunity to speak, and everybody's voices will be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Kraskowski. Parks and Rec Commission, Councilor Evans.
Thank you. Park and Rec Commission met last week in hearing that the discussion about the facilities was going to be on our agenda tonight. They are here and would like to speak, so I'd like to invite Chairman Toby Lewis and Secretary Genevieve Corsi, as well as anyone else from the Commission who'd like to come up.
Good evening. Genevieve Corsi, Secretary of the Parks and Recreation Commission, and I'm here with Toby, the Chair, and Mitchell Marks. Renee Powell and Jamie Hennessy were also here earlier and had to head out for the evening. At our last meeting, we did pass a motion to support moving forward with developing a plan for the new permanent facility. And I am reading this letter on behalf of the Commission. Dear Mayor Pendleton, Deputy Mayor King, and Town Councilors, the members of the Parks and Recreation Commission would like to express our unanimous support for moving forward expediently with determining a plan for the permanent home for the South Windsor Recreation Department. A new facility will be an investment in the health, well-being, and happiness of our residents. We believe that the South Windsor residents deserve a facility that can deliver the high-quality, multi-generational programming that they have come to appreciate from the town, and that our Parks and Recreation departments have shown that they can provide with the proper resources. While the Parks and Recreation staff have done an incredible job of readying the temporary facility for use, 350 Foster Street is very obviously inadequate in space, in modern amenities, and accessibility for long-term use. We also believe that the Commission should be highly involved in the development of a plan for the new facility. As Commission members, we hear monthly from the directors of the Parks and Recreation departments about their successes and challenges. We develop relationships with various recreation groups in town, and we engage with community members at numerous events throughout the year. The Parks and Recreation Commission urges the Council to recognize the Commission as an essential and influential participant in the decision-making process when determining the future of the recreation facility. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Evans.
I just wanted to add that, you know, I'd felt for them to come and speak during this point too was a good time in case we did have any questions of the commission, to be able to ask them before we went into our own discussion as well. So the commission really, you know, feels strongly in their involvement, and I wanted them to be able to voice that on their own.
Thank you. Chairman Lewis, if I could have you back just for a second, please. Thank you, sir. I see that this is signed by Genevieve Corsi, the Secretary, on behalf of the South Windsor Park and Recreation Commission members. Sir, since you're the chairperson, are you in agreement with this letter?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that it was also coming from the chairperson.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And you're all good? Thank you. Thank you for coming this evening. And the Public Building Commission, is there anyone here from the Public Building Commission? Because Councilor Kabowski is not here this evening, and I don't know if anyone is here from there. Not seeing anyone? Okay. And moving on, we have the Zoning Board of Appeals. Is there anyone here that could report from the Zoning Board of Appeals? Because we don't have a liaison to that position at this time to give a report. Okay. Okay. Moving on, reports from committees. We have the Energy Committee is open. Is there anyone here from the Energy Committee that could give a report?
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Energy Committee met last week. Before I discuss kind of the nature of business, I do want to point out that Councilor Paterno was on the Energy Committee for many years, and he was very much of an asset to that committee, and he will be missed moving forward. And I hope that maybe one day he can serve on the committee as a citizen moving forward, because he brings a lot of value and institutional knowledge to that committee. But moving forward, the committee discussed, most of the discussion that revolved around new building codes that came out revolving around electric vehicle charging stations, and providing accessible parking spaces equipped with electric vehicle charging stations. So there is existing zoning regulations that was approved by the Planning Zoning Commission maybe 2 years ago or so, addressing electric vehicle charging stations. So Commissioner Wagner was going to look into working with town staff to see if there's any updates, what kind of updates the zoning regulations would need to be made to be compliant with the code.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And the Demolition Delay Committee, is there anyone here to report on that? Not seeing anyone? Okay. And at this time, we have some openings on the boards and commissions and committees. There's some openings based off of the departure of two past council members. So Councilor Siracusa, if you could, the Library Board, I'll appoint you as liaison to Library Board, Zoning Board of Appeals, Connecticut Water Customer Advisory Council, Naming of Public Lands and Buildings, and Personnel Committee. And you're taking the spots that were created by the vacancy of Councilor Gamble. Thank you. And then we have Deputy Mayor King, who will be doing Economic Development Commission and Social Justice and Racial Equity Commission. Thank you. As liaison, Councilor Lopez, Agricultural Commission. Thank you. Councilor Longo is the Energy Committee and the Ethics Committee. What's it? And Senior Advisory? Okay, and Senior Advisory, that's right. And then we have Councilor Lydecker is going on to capital projects. Okay, everyone good with all those? Yes? Please make that under item number 9, all the new liaisons and everything. Thank you. And moving on now. Item number 11, consent agenda. First reading, we have none. Second reading, there is none. Miscellaneous, there is none. Item number 12, unfinished business. Waiving the bidding process of the projects from $5,000 to $25,000. In our packets, we have the listing of the vendors and the prices that went out. And Councilor Lydecker, if Or, Mr. Maniscalco, please.
Yeah, so basically we redid the report consistent with what Councilor Leidecker had requested and leaving out some of the items that Councilor Gamble had requested as well. Additionally, I also have Mr. Majors from our Facilities Department and Chief Lindstrom here to provide just a little bit of anecdotal evidence related to how the waiver in this past, I think it was about 6 months, has helped them in terms of getting some of their work done and things for the town as well. So I don't know if any of you would like to kind of hear from either of them as well. So.
Please bring them forward, Mr. Maniscalco.
Good evening, Clay Major, Director of Facilities, Public Buildings Division. So what I want to share with you tonight is just some bullet points that I had put together today regarding why it's so important to have this threshold at $25,000. I want to start with this one project that we have right now lined up for the library. It's adding 6 parking lot lights to the parking lot, a rear parking lot of the library. So the first thing you're going to do is compose and write an RFP or plagiarize an existing RFP. Depending on the complexity of the RFP, we may have to pass it on to the town attorney for review. If it has to go to review, I'd have to fill out a request form and send it to the town manager for approval to speak with the town attorney. I'd then email the town attorney with the document for review. I'll wait for an answer from the town attorney. If necessary, make changes to the document. Plan calendar dates for the RFP. Dates would include date for advertisement, date for the last RFI before the bid opening, date for the walkthrough, and date for the proposal opening. I would then mock up a plan with project details, write a legal ad, write a legal ad for the town manager to sign, scan and send it to the town manager, email the legal ad to the local paper for a cost, to get a cost to put the ad in the paper. Could be the JI or the Hartford Courant, depending on the RFP. Wait for a draft to be approved from the local paper. Send confirmation to the local paper. Cut a purchase order, send to the local paper. Log on to the town website. Place a PDF of the legal ad and RFP on the website. Send out the RFP to local contractors. Email the RFP to Minority Construction Council. Meet bidders for walkthrough at site. If there are any RFIs, create a Word document for the RFIs. Answer the questions of the RFI. Convert the Word document RFI to a PDF. Log on to the town website again. Upload that PDF to the town's website. Schedule a witness to be present at the bid opening. Create a bid opening document. The day of the bid opening, pick up the packets at the town manager's office, open and read aloud the bids, usually here in the council chambers. If awarded, scan all documents onto Share Drive, log on to the town website, download proposal results and bids and results to the bid and RFP. Call and check references of the low bidder. Create tentative notice of award. Scan and send to town manager for his signature. Send tentative notice of award to the awarded low bidder. Wait for a signed tentative notice of award to be returned, usually within 5 days. Save tentative notice of award to file. Create contract for town manager to sign. Fill out town manager contract form explaining purpose of the contract. Scan and send contract and approval form to town manager for approval. Temporarily save contract to desktop. Send contract to low bidder for signature. Wait for return contract from low bidder. Rename and save contract as fully executed. Cut PO, wait for approval, send PO to contractor. That's just one RFP. If we could waive that to $25,000, the steps would be send out mocked up plan for the project to the contractors, provide project details, receive and review proposals, select contractor proposal, cut PO, send to contractor. So a lot of administrative work, number one. I can do the second part of this in less than 2 hours, except for the walkthrough. All the administrative stuff I just listed off to you, within a 30 to 45 days is when all of that stuff would be completed, before it even hits the street. So there's a big time lag here for doing this RFP process. Not only is it time, it's also costly. It's expensive. This would certainly expedite the process. As everybody knows today, contractors are crazy busy. If you want to get something done quickly, the last thing to do is do an RFP for a type of project under $25,000. So I thought you might appreciate all the parts to what goes into that and help you understand a little bit better why we really need this $25,000 waiver. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Magis. Is there any questions? Councilor Lydecker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I appreciate you walking through the timeline. It's extremely detailed, and I do appreciate the contrast between a few hours versus a month or so. But I guess my question is, was this the same timeline that you would have used 2 years ago pre-COVID? And if so, what is changing now that we now need up to 25,000 outside the charter versus 2 years ago when we are still at 5,000?
We needed to change way earlier than 2 years ago. At $5,000, you can't really buy anything today. You couldn't buy it 2 years ago, but post-COVID, as you know probably, prices have gone through the roof. We received, you probably don't want to hear this, Madam Mayor, we received bids the second go-around for the Wood Library that the engineer gave us an estimate of $175,000. They came in at $400,000. So the prices are out just crazy today. So even more so, we need it today, but we needed it 2 years ago too.
So is that really more the driving factor, just the inflation costs, and now just how much more the projects are costing, and just the time savings to you and your staff?
So last year, every month I provided a report to the town manager. I did 2 reports. I did one to the town manager and to my then boss, Vanessa Perry, assistant town manager. I did one to the town council, which was scaled back, a little modified. The one I did for Vanessa Perry was very detailed. I summarized all of my projects every month, and at the end of the month, I told them how many projects I had on my plate, how many were delayed, how many were on hold. On average, I had 34 projects a month on my plate. So if I had to do this, and not all of them, to be fair, were in that price range of $5,000 to $25,000. A number of them were. If I had to do that, again, for those projects, it would be a waste of my time. It would slow down my productivity. I do use state contracts when possible. I also use construction procurement process through CROG. That is not efficient, and it's also expensive. You pay a 20% premium for using that service. So yeah, and once you give the purchase order to the contractor, CROG walks away. So if there's any delays, if there are any missteps on the contractor's part, they don't get involved. They've already got their cut, and they're walking away. So now we're stuck with the contractor trying to get these projects done. So to answer your question, yes, 2 years ago it was needed badly. It was needed probably 5 years before that as well. And because of COVID, because of the inflated prices right now, it's even more needed more so.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Councilor Longo.
I'm just wondering why you settled on the $25,000 limit, because, you know, when I'm looking at this list, a lot of it falls within, say, 15 to 10, 12s, 15s. So, you know, the 20,000 and above seem lower in number.
Mr. Maniscalco.
I think when we were discussing this item 6 months ago, or whenever it was that the council passed it the last time, we were actually looking at the rate of inflation and what $5,000, which is the threshold in the charter, would actually be inflated to at that time. So most likely it may even be more at this red hot moment, but I think that was kind of the driving force for how we got to 25,000.
Thank you. Councilor Kozkowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the description of the process.
You're welcome.
It's kind of eye-opening, showing us, you know, all the effort that we make for the sake of transparency and fulfilling legal requirements. That said, do you find that with these smaller projects that you might be getting kind of more more quotes, more proposals, better prices through the waiver process, or if you were to go through the bid process?
So it depends on the project, right? So some contractors are geared towards certain work, like concrete work or renovating work, or, tracks project we just did. We replaced the front door on the tracks building, put an ADA sidewalk in. It really depends. There's no one great answer for you there, but I think for the value of $5,000 to $25,000, those contractors that I've used in the past, we know who those contractors are, and we know the ones that do good work. So that's really what I'd be geared towards, pushing this out to.
Okay. Are contractors going through the effort to respond to bids for $5,000 jobs, $10,000 jobs? Do they go through their administrative effort to do so?
If they do, and this is again an example back to the mayor, the first go around at the Wood Library, no responses. The second, we had 2 people out of the 5 that we had on the walkthrough. The first low bidder was over $400,000. The second one was $600,000. Now I know that's not the small project you're talking about, but as an example.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Councilor Lopez, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have any questions, but being involved in anything that has to do with computer and software, and in this list I see everything, most of the stuff of the vendors in here have to do with computers, software, hardware, and technology, and today, that is very pricey. Myself at work, I'm running into the same situation where there are vendors out there that are just being discouraged from bidding because it's just, we have a limit, and we cannot go above that limit. And software, even though many years ago we were told that technology was going to be cheaper, it hasn't. Yeah, so I kind of agree with what you were saying. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any, listening to your list, it was like 15 steps compared to 7, 20 steps compared to 7. Oh, that was pretty impressive, and 30 days compared to 2.5 hours. Thank you. Thank you, appreciate you.
Yep.
My question is, if you would indulge me to the town attorney, please, because I'm understanding that some people are saying this is against the charter, this is out of the charter. What is this concerning the charter, please? Can we get into that?
Sure. When we visited this issue 6 months ago, the concern was how do you get purchasing capacity over the $5,000 threshold? And the charter does provide for the town council to waive that process in the event they feel it's not in the best interest of the town. So my recollection is that the town manager was continuing to come before you with bid waiver requests on an ongoing basis. And the thought at the time was, let's see if we can get based on the town's experience of not having the best response to bids, not being able to get materials and supplies because they lost the opportunity because of the long process to get to it, have a blanket understanding that the existing amount was not in the best interest of the town. And that's what the town council did 6 months ago or so. This just continues this through the current fiscal year, is my understanding.
We're in the charter. We're not violating the charter by doing this at all, correct?
Correct.
The charter allows us to do this, and the state statute allows us to do this.
That is correct. Section 714 of the town charter allows you to do this.
I know you wrote that into the resolution. I just want to clarify that during our discussion item here.
Sure.
Is there any other questions? Any other discussion? Sure, we could hear from the chief. Come on up, chief. Absolutely.
Thank you. Really, I just would reiterate and regurgitate what Clay said. He knows the process far better than I do. His umbrella deals a lot with projects and project management, whereas ours deals a lot with more just straight up purchasing of hard goods. We are seeing a very strong increase due to inflation in the cost of items. To Councilor Lopez's point, a lot of them are software, computer technology based. And as an example, I have a quote on my desk that we budgeted for. It somewhat aligns with our pursuit of accreditation, and it's a software-based program. It dovetails very nicely with our existing software platform that we use, and that quote exceeds $5,000. And you know, in discussions with Clay and with the manager, I think that by authorizing the manager to approve purchases above 5,000, but at a certain limit, whether it be 25,000 or whatever is proposed, I think it does lend itself to really increasing our operational efficiency without having to go through the steps that Clay outlined. So there's one on my desk as we speak. We've had, I find that the RFP process, although it has its merits, and there's certainly times and dollar amounts that I think should go through the RFP, there are so many that we see that are 5,000 to 15,000. I haven't had many up towards the 25, although I know he has. But it really creates a level of inefficiency that I don't like to see. Sometimes it's not avoidable. But if we can avoid it, you know, I think oftentimes of our mission statement, one of the tenets of our mission statement is to keep the department modern. So I think that this conversation is one where we try to balance the modernity of the town versus the tradition and the identity and the spirit of what is in the charter. And I think that if the charter allows for this type of authorization, it really would improve our ability to be efficient, particularly where supply chains might be still limited in some regards with some businesses, and you know, things are expensive nowadays. A high horsepower laptop is going to be more than $5,000. A ballistic shield for a supervisor's vehicle is going to be more than $5,000. Those are things that we need, and to have to go through that RFP process for those is, I think that it just points us towards inefficiency, which I would like to try to avoid at all costs.
Thank you, Chief. Does anyone have any questions for the Chief? Councilor Leidecker?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I think that was going to be my question. Is it more, from your perspective of the police department, is it more software driven, or is it more day-to-day necessities, body armor, equipment for the cars, video cameras? Is that where you guys are struggling, or is it more, like you mentioned, accreditation software?
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, it's not accreditation software. It's software that would help us be accreditation compliant. So it has to do with our community feedback and things of that nature. It's both. It's the hard goods, it's the ballistic shields, it's patrol rifles, it's some software programs that we've seen. The big ticket items, like last year, we went out and did an RFP for the new emergency medical dispatching. Remember, that was a significant line item in our budget, and that one we went through the RFP process, and rightly so. That was, you know, upwards of $80,000, and you'll be happy to know that the actual finished product came in well under that. So we made out okay, but it's a little bit of both. It's some of the software and actual physical things that we can pick up and deploy and use.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for the Chief? Not seeing any. Thank you. Chief,
Thank you.
appreciate your input.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments or discussion for the town manager or the town attorney? Not seeing any, we'll move on to item 12B, discussion of abandonment of 8 Collins Lane. And I know that we have some documents within our packet that we can look at. And Mr. Maniscalco, if you could lead this conversation.
Correct, thank you. So first of all, I have Dr. Kay here, who's actually made this request to the town. So I don't know if you want to just give kind of a brief overview of what you're looking to do on Collins Lane and kind of what precipitated getting us to this point, and then we can jump into some of the other documents we have.
If I may, point of order, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Point of order. I just want to make sure that we're not talking about the abandonment of 8 Collins Lane, which is a private property. We're talking about the right-of-way, not the property itself.
I don't know why the number is stuck there, but it's actually the road, which is
It's
Collins
the road.
Lane.
It's
Road that the
not a
town
property.
currently
Correct.
owns.
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct. The road. Collins Lane Road, not the 8 Collins Lane, but Collins Lane
Yes.
Road. Correct?
Correct.
So let's remove that 8. Good point of order. So it's Collins Lane, just Collins Lane, not Collins Lane Road, just Collins Lane. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, Council. Vasant Kinkari, I'm here, resident of South Windsor, also a very proud business owner here in South Windsor. So in 2019, we started 4 Elements Direct Primary Care, a completely innovative healthcare model with our patients coming from as far south as Ridgefield, as far north as South Hadley, Massachusetts, and as far east as Boston. I'm super proud to say that we are based here in South Windsor, where I live, where my kids go to school. So as we've grown over the past few years, we have the need to add another physician as we expand our services. We are looking at building a nonprofit organization to focus on educating the community on health and wellness, building a health coaching school. We're currently located right across the street in the Mitchell Professional Building. So as we looked at opportunities to continue to grow and expand, and Collins Lane came up, we thought it would be a fantastic place. It's got a lot of greenery to create an outside garden, walkways, kind of a walk with your doc events, a lot of community education. So the idea is to really use this space for a medical practice. The challenge that we faced was that on physical appearance, there is no, the road that Collins Lane shows on the map is currently a paper road. It does not exist in the physical footage there. So when we look at the property appears to have frontage on Sullivan Avenue for the overlay zone to be applied onto the residential. However, the paper road still exists that prevents the overlay from being able to be used as a professional building. So the request for the abandonment of the overlay, the abandonment of Collins Lane comes from the ability to use that space for the medical practice as we continue to grow. Hope that was helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Maniscalco?
Yeah, so Mr. Stetson did some pretty good research for me and looked into actually Collins Lane and how it originated and where it came from. I know there was some discussion about, you know, the town had paid for this for $1 and all of those sorts of things. Essentially, from what we can see is that that intersection has changed over time, and as a result, we're stuck with the scenario we're in today. In terms of process and procedure, essentially what we're looking to do is if the council would like to move forward with this, we would be asking you at your next meeting to approve an 824 request of planning and zoning, who would then take the time to do a review of whether there's whether it would make sense for the town to abandon that road, and then that would come back to all of you, and I believe that you would probably want to maybe consider a public hearing and then probably pass a resolution to actually abandon it. Just as a side note, I know there was some concern about, or there's usually concern about the idea of abandoning a road. This is something that's actually been fairly common. I believe the last time the town abandoned a road was about 5 years ago. From our research and looking into that, when that road abandonment was done, the property was actually given to the abutting property owners. So it wasn't something that was like, you know, the town went and sold it or bid it out to the highest bidder. It was just given to the abutting property owners. So that's the past practice as well. Lastly, we did have a conversation, actually Mr. Stetson had a conversation with the other resident on Collins Lane to ask if they were okay with the process moving forward. And it seems like they've been positive so far in terms of that process as well.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Maniscalco or the town attorney? Councilor Evans.
Thank you. So I have two questions, and ultimately I don't think I have any issue with this, but just for clarification, right now it is zoned as rural residential. We would not be rezoning that, and the 824 that we would pass to planning and zoning would not rezone that, but that is a separate process that would have to be.
Correct. That would be a separate process that the doctor would have to go through.
Okay. The other question, and perhaps it's getting into the weeds too much of like the history of it all, but just wanting to understand where it came from and looking at the original information, it says, whereas the town is desirous of acquiring a portion of land adjacent to Sand Hill Road, and more particularly shown on a map attached and made part of this agreement, and whereas Porter A. Collins is willing to deed said land to the town for the sum of $1 and to allow town men and equipment to his land for purpose of construction. Why was the town desirous of gaining this land, and what construction were we doing? Additionally, do we still have that need?
So I wish I was alive in 1965 to have known why, and I cannot tell you why. That being said, I did talk with Mr. Caldwell today briefly to see if there was any need for us to still have access like to the back of Porter Hill or anything like that from that road, and there's no identifiable need that I could come up with or that he was aware of that we would need to access other town properties, so that doesn't exist.
Okay. It just sounds like the kind of history of it is a little bit different maybe than what we've thought, but there is no longer a need based on what historically
Today,
the
there's
need was.
nothing that we need that for.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As this is a discussion item, I am all for this move. I've known the doctor for a little while, actually since he first moved in, when he first came here, because the previous business I used to work with, I remember I said, what is this 4E thing? And what are you trying to do to transform healthcare? And so the reason that I'm for this is because I appreciate the fact that not only has he grown, but he's also been very vocal in saying, I want to stay here. And especially in a time where everyone's talking about taxes and everyone's talking about finances, when you have a business that's not looking for anything, but says he wants to stay and I want to create where I'm already at, that's a huge thing for all of us. And so, number one, I'm in support of this. I do have a follow-up question, though, if I can. So if we were to move forward with all of this, and congratulations, here you go. So you're taking care of all that plowing, all of that, everything that's going on there. If you wouldn't mind, I just want to make sure. That way, when we have years from now, we look for the historical archives.
Yes, to answer your question, yes, we would take care of all the plowing.
I'm sorry, what?
We would take care of all the plowing, to answer your
Or
question.
E-Wood.
All 4 elements would, correct.
Okey-doke. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Kaskowski?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In concept, this seems like a fine process. A little surprised to hear it as a discussion here and not in an executive session because we're dealing with real property owned by the town. But that's fine. It's looking at the plan, looking at the maps. It seems like there's 2 avenues that could be gone to process this abandonment to satisfy both the zoning needs and the practical needs of the town. I came in with the question of, have you talked to with the other property owner, and if they are amenable to acquiring this extra piece of land, so be it. That's great. I'd love to have them at the table too. From a procedural standpoint, as I understand it, we as a council have to do approve a referral to the commission for an 8-24 review. Considering that our next meeting is until September, is there any way we can accomplish that tonight to save 6 weeks from the process?
Yes, you can do that tonight. There's nothing formal in terms of a referral to P&Z for an 824 review. So you could tonight refer it to P&Z for an 824 review, and then they would report back to you. Answers Councilman Evans' question, is there a need for this in the town? And that's what it would be there for. So yes, you could do that tonight.
And that can be with a motion under this discussion item?
You could just make a motion
from the floor right
from the
now.
floor. Yeah, you can make a motion from the floor, and somebody would second it. You guys could debate it and whether or not it's appropriate to do that tonight. There's nothing legally improper about that. You can do that tonight.
Okay. I think Councilor Longo had a comment first.
Councilor Longo.
I was just trying to, place this Collins Lane. It's at the end of Sand Hill Road. It's that very narrow track that runs inside. Is that the one?
I believe that's the one you're referring to, yeah.
So, it seems to be a very commendable project. But what would they do with that existing road? Would that just be left as it is?
I think the
or-
easiest way to think about it is it would basically become their driveways, split between the 2 of them.
Thank you.
Councilor, is there any other questions? Just a minute, please. I have one, if you don't mind. So looking at the maps and looking at the property that are on these maps and where the abandoned property would be, the present Collins Lane would then turn into the driveway for 2 Collins Lane?
It would, if I remember correctly, you were going to divide it in half, and half was going to go to one, and half was going to go to the other, so.
Well, I meant from Sand Hill Road.
So from Sand Hill Road, it would probably be for 2 Collins Lane.
So they would just drive in and go right to their driveway. And they couldn't go any farther because that piece of property is then whatever the doc wants to do with it.
Correct.
So does Collins Lane still need to be Collins Lane, or would those people at 2 Collins Lane change their address to Sand Hill Road and make the Collins Lane their complete driveway? If you understand what I'm saying, for 2 Collins Lane.
That was part of the discussion Mr. Stetson had with them, so.
Madam Mayor, good question. So the residents at 2 Collins happen to be in the audience with us this evening, and they have a desire to keep it to named Collins Lane. So through the 824 referral, they can take the public road, turn it into a private road. That way they don't have to change their addresses and deal with UPS and whatnot.
So being a private road, the town would no longer plow that street up to 2 Collins Lane?
Correct.
It would be the private road? Okay. And would that be written somewhere in this whole agreement for future perpetuity there on the taking care of the Collins Lane and turning it into a private lane? How does that happen?
I would imagine that would be put in the resolution when, that you all would pass in order to abandon the property.
Okay. Okay. What's that? Can we add them to, if they'd like to come up and speak? You don't have to. If you'd like, just please go to the microphone. Because Councilor Kozakowski was looking for some input from the 2 Collins Lane homeowners. And just hit the button. There you go.
Hi, thank you. I'm Sarah Taylor. I live at 2 Collins Lane. I just wanted to say that we're happy to be here tonight. We have appreciated the transparency from the department, and we are not necessarily against this change. We would just like to have open communication going forward. That's it.
I like that too. And I like the fact that we would be able to write in there that it becomes a private lane for you guys, and you'd be responsible for the upkeep of the road and everything there, correct? Okay. So at this point, how do we proceed, Mr. Town Attorney and Mr. Maniscalco, to get this? Oh, I'm sorry.
I think if Councilor Kozakowski had mentioned, maybe he could make a motion from the floor to direct me to make an 824 referral to planning and zoning, if that's of interest.
Okay, go right ahead.
Do I have to stand to make it from the floor?
I was thinking laying down, I don't know.
I make a motion to refer to the Planning Zoning Commission, under an Section 8-24 of the Connecticut General Statute, the abandonment of the Collins Lane right-of-way.
Second.
Any other discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in this evening. Appreciate your comments. And now moving on to item 13A is a discussion item of the library board updates. Do we have the chair or the vice chair of the library board here, please? You're going to item 15. Yeah. Just a minute, please, ma'am. We're going to set you up with the microphone. There you go. And if you could state your name, please.
Carol Stroud.
Thank you.
Okay. Kathy Chiappetta, our board chair, is not able to be here tonight, so I am giving you her report. Since we last spoke, 3 full-time staff members have been added to the library's roster. Deborah Zulik and Becky Foran joined our children's library staff in June. Deb previously worked at the Greenwich Public Library and at the Connecticut Library Consortium, the statewide library cooperative. And Becky has been part of our Sunday staff while working full-time at the East Hartford Middle School. Their arrival coincided with the start of summer programs. We've provided you with a copy of the flyer distributed through the schools and social media. A total of 120 programs, including indoor and outdoor, in-person, hybrid, and virtual programs for all ages are planned. There are 460 children and teens participating, 40 more than last summer. So far, there have been 37 programs with a total attendance of 830. 50 teen volunteers have contributed over 275 hours assisting with those programs. 352 craft packets have been distributed. We partner with the South Windsor Police, Public Works, Fire Department, and all 4 elementary schools in the presentation of some of these programs. 904 books and other materials were borrowed the first day of the summer program, and the Children's and Young Adult Library is accounting for 55% of the total library circ. But that doesn't mean adults aren't involved. Over 50 people have taken on the challenge of a separate reading program with regular drawings for participants featuring donated prizes from the rec department and town businesses. The third position filled is that of our new director, Kevin Sullivan, who is here tonight.
Please come up, Kevin.
First day on the job, so.
Awesome. Great way to get your feet wet. So if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
So my name is Kevin Sullivan. I'm coming here from the, get it right on the microphone there. My name's Kevin Sullivan. I'm coming from the Douglas Library of Hebron, where I served as director there for the past 5 years. Prior to that, I ran the Wilson branch as a part of the Windsor Public Library. And then previous to that, I oversaw Enfield Television, which is the government access television station, which is actually a department of the Enfield Public Library. So I'm very excited to be here. It's been a really full first day, but I'm excited to be a part of this town.
Well, you got to save the best for last. Meeting the town council. Well, welcome to South Windsor and South Windsor Library.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Among Kevin's first task will be filling the adult reference and children's Sunday assistant positions. Both are posted with an application closing date of July 31st. To date, we have 20 applicants for the reference position and 7 for the children's. So we look forward to selecting the top candidates later in the summer.
Thank you, Ms. Carroll. And let's see if anyone has any questions for you. And Councilor Evans?
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing about those positions being filled, and welcome, Kevin, to the library. I'm curious because I've been hearing through the Moms Club about a Miss Z, and how wonderful she is, how she overhears a conversation in the children's department, and she immediately creates a program or fills a need. That is our new head children's librarian, is that correct? No.
There's a shared head at this present time.
Okay. So there is not a head children's department librarian? Sorry, I guess I misunderstood
No,
that.
there's 2 people who are sharing the position for a few months.
And what will happen after those few months?
Then there will be a head appointed.
There will be what? I'm sorry?
A head of the children's library.
From
appointed.
one of those 2
Yes.
individuals? Okay. And so one is a temporary position, and that person will no longer be staffed, or they will?
No, they'll be on the staff.
Okay, thank you. Well, anyway, I'm hearing wonderful things about Missy. I don't know what her position is, but she's been doing great things, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Evans. Any other questions? Ms. Strout? And seeing none? Any other discussions? Not seeing any. And this is your new liaison, is Councilor Siracusa. Okay. Thank you, ma'am, for coming in this evening and reporting. Appreciate that. And welcome again, Kevin. Thank you. Item 13D, discussion item, building located at 100 Cedar Avenue. Mr. Maniscalco, please.
Yeah, so I think there was some concern related to the property at 100 Cedar Avenue, which is the LA Fitness building. And I know there was some interest that had been raised about using it for park and rec at one point and some other things. I think I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware that the town is actually in receipt of an application, and there is work that's going on inside that building to turn it into a club fitness. So that'll be club fitness moving forward as soon as they're done. There was actually an original proposal to do pickleball courts on the outside of the building. I believe they've now withdrawn that original application, but it is still moving forward as a club fitness.
Really? You got smoke coming out of your ears. Do you have a question?
I'll yield the floor.
Okay. Counselor Kozakowski.
Good job finding a tenant for that building.
Yes.
Easy fit, so.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor King?
Yeah, I concur. Obviously, I was the one that kind of brought that up. I just wanted to make sure, because I had heard reports that it went from fitness to the sports, and then they pulled out, and so on and so forth. So as long as we were still getting money for it, that's all I cared about.
Yep, they are current on their taxes. So.
That's all I cared about.
Any other questions? Not seeing any. Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. And moving on to 13E is the charter revision, and we all received that in our packets. And if we have any questions for the town manager at this time and/or for the town attorney, please. Now would be the time to have a conversation about this. Councilor Evans.
Thank you. So I think last meeting I had kind of brought up the idea that we should commit to a charter revision. I know Councilor Leidecker has expressed as well that, this is something that she'd be interested in. I think it's important that we as councilors figure out if it's something we want to move forward with. I think in discussions that I've had since the last meeting, perhaps the most appropriate way to move forward would be for us to move ahead with the charter revision and set up that revision committee so that it can move forward and be all set so that when the new council is seated, we don't need to wait until that new council is seated. We can form it, get it started, and have it off and running and get that work started ASAP. So that would be my hope and recommendation. I think it's important to hear what other councilors feel about that as well. So that's kind of where I stand on it. I think if that is something that we are all in favor of, next meeting, we have a resolution setting that charter revision committee.
Councilor, not seeing anyone here. Councilor Alanka?
I just had a question about what the composition of the committee would be like.
In our packet, the town attorney has provided us with a charter revision commission statutory requirements. There's a piece here and it talks about the membership. It gives us a timeline of what we have to do at what particular time, what they have to do at a particular time. This is the full guidance. And I'd like to have this, even as a discussion item, included in the record because this is spelled out pretty intensely. So I'd like to, Amanda's not there, but I'll ask her to include it. So Councilor Leidecker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I could just ask some questions about the requirements that we were given about opening the charter. So in paragraph 3, it talks about holding at least 2 public hearings, the first one before any substantive work is done. Is that a public hearing before we pass a resolution to open or to create this commission to open a charter? Or is that once we have the commission in place before they go forward and start doing their reviewing?
It's the latter. It's so before the Charter Revision Commission starts to do any substantive work. Your resolution, whenever it is, should be to impanel a Charter Revision Commission, and you may want to consider adopting the names of those people between 5 and 15 members to sit on that commission when you resolve to go forward. These timelines are set by statute. They're not movable, okay? So once you start down this path, this is the timelines. And it is a 16-month period of time that the Charter Revision Commission has the ability to review the charter, take comments, consider it, and issue its final report. And then once the final report is filed with the town clerk, it is a short, probably less than 3 months, 3 to 6 months of town council meetings and other comment review periods before it goes to referendum. So the timing of it needs to be coordinated well with the town clerk, and you want to do the referendum probably as part of the normal election cycle. You don't have a special referendum for it. It's cost the town too much money to do that. So you kind of cycle it with the next election.
And
Anyway,
then,
go ahead, sorry.
no, that's okay. If there's more, please go on. Because I think everybody needs to really understand, for one, that we have very strict timelines here. This is not 47 days, this is not 32 days. Once we start, there's really no going back, otherwise we've lost all the work that we've put into it if we miss these deadlines.
That's right.
And then it does say, because I know some people may push back and say, well, why is this council creating the commission to open the charter? Why are we taking that authority from the potentially new council? And so just to clarify, because it did seem to say this in numerous instances in here, we don't set what the commission does. We can make recommendations to them, and this council could say, oh, I'd like you to look at this section and that section, but at the end of the day, we have, one, no control over what the commission decides to recommend to us, because they don't have to take this council's input or the next council's input. But also, it appears we can reject everything or just one or two things. It's not all or nothing. Can you just kind of clarify both of those points a little bit?
You're correct on both ends. So when the town council impanels the Charter Revision Commission, it can also ask that commission to review certain items of the charter. And it can say that it wants the commission to review the purchasing section or whatever sections you feel need to be reviewed. And then the commission would have to consider those and address those in their report. But they're under no obligation to amend it. They could say, after reviewing it, they could say, we're going to keep it the way it is, for example. So they don't have to change it, and they don't have to do anything. They're entirely their own entity. Likewise, when the report comes back to you and you say, okay, we don't like that section, what they recommend, you don't have to include it in what you put forward for referendum. Now, there's a process for petitions, and members of the public can get signatures to force the issue, but by and large, that doesn't happen. You'll refer it to the commission will issue its report, and then you can adopt what you want to see as the final charter, and that will be set forth for the referendum.
Thank you. And then one last question, if I may. To your knowledge, or Mr. Maniscalco's knowledge, how many towns, say, in the last 5 years or in the last 2 years have actually opened their charter and are successfully in the process of it, if either of you know?
There are some towns that look at it on a regular basis. There are some towns that have a 3-page charter. You guys have a 45-page charter, all right? There are some towns that look at it once every 20 years, if that. It's all over the board. It's how is the town functioning, what aspects of it, that you're purchasing, or your purchasing section is a perfect example of why towns go back and look at the charter revision. In fact, the last 3 that I've done have all dealt with those types of financial figures in the charter that are just outdated and not workable anymore. So that's a very common cause for opening the charter.
Understood. Thank you so much.
Just to add one question, and I think I'm right on this, but I'm not sure. Once the charter revision is done and it goes to referendum, I believe there's 10 years before the town can open it again? Or can they open it on a regular basis?
I don't know that that's correct. I'll take a look at that. I don't believe that that's correct.
No? Okay. I'm not sure, but my memory from last time we did a charter revision, it was 10 years. So,
okay.
But
I don't know that's
it's
by
something
state
you could
statute
do.
or maybe local
Maybe
charter.
that was local, I don't know.
Charter.
Well, maybe when you guys figure that out, if it's 10 years or not 10 years, Mike, you can
But
send
I
us an
do-
email with that.
Yeah, I would just, having gone through a process like this, I would suggest that as the council, prior to actually starting the clock, getting as many of your ducks in a row as possible. So knowing what you want to look at, knowing who the members are going to be, knowing how many members you're going to have, and understanding what you're going to do before you actually start that clock is going to be imperative.
Councilor Lydecker?
So then if I may, so is this something that we need to again talk about and put on as a discussion item for that first meeting in September? And I mean, are we to the point where we're saying, people should be reaching out to their respective parties, counselors, whoever, to express interest in this? I mean, if we're gonna start this clock, then it's not just passing a resolution September 1st, it's, we need to come into the table with this resolution knowing how many, who, so do we need another discussion the first meeting in September to start talking about how many and all of that information?
It's a very good question, Counselor Evans.
So I've always kind of suggested with our calendar that maybe we don't have August off. And I'm not suggesting we don't have August off, but perhaps it's not really a vacation for us as much as a working behind the scenes month where we're doing a lot of this prep work and working up to our first September meeting to have everything all set to come in for September and just move ahead with this.
And if I may, I was going to ask the town attorney this evening if he could draft a resolution creating this commission in the month of August, and the council review the charter over the month of August for us to come in with our list of, Councilor Kozakowski, I took over, I'm sorry, would you like to go first?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, to answer Councilor Leideker's question about has any municipalities done this recently, and I will say that the city of Middletown just recently completed their charter revision endeavor about a year ago. It was a 2-year process, for all intents and purposes, and I will say that the amount of work that went into that endeavor is substantial. So I take Mr. Maniscalco's point to heart where we need to make sure we get our ducks in a row because that's when the work is starting before they actually start. Because once that process starts, recommendations are coming in, topics are flying, public comments coming in, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? What if we do this? We should do that. Once those start flying around, it is very important that each of those topics are properly vetted. Otherwise, the end result might have some things with unintended consequences. So I'm not necessarily opposed to charter revision, but it can't be done naively or flippantly or anything to that sense. Like, this is a serious deal that every counselor will be involved with. We are going to have to allocate, the town manager is going to have to allocate a lot of his time to this type of endeavor. I'm sure we'll have Attorney Carolla involved a lot in this process, along with staff, and probably members of all of our boards and commissions are probably going to weigh in because there could be recommendations or suggestions that affect any one of our boards and commissions. We could have, and then so it's the real deal, and we can't go lighthearted into a process like this. I do want to make one more point before you, Mayor, before you threw the floor back to me. You mentioned something about creating a resolution forming this commission. I think we might have a little discussion on that type of activity later where we have an opinion by the attorney where commissions and committees can't be formed by resolution. So I think that's something that we need to address maybe a little later. But I'm fine with exploring, but if we need it, but I don't want to, if we start, I don't want to be put in a place where it moves in a way where we can't pull back and say, you know what, we are not ready for this type of commitment. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with my fellow councilors. I think this is one of these moments in which, and I was going to say this earlier, that sometimes it's perceived that the town council goes on its own and that we don't live here or don't care or don't pay taxes or any of those things. And this is one of those moments in which, bluntly, our residents need to put up or shut up. And that's not a disrespectful thing. But what I am saying is we have a lot of committees and commissions that we have put in place that sometimes we can't move forward without a quorum. And this is not, based on what I'm reading, this is not one of those things where we can just say people are absent, and we don't have a meeting. There's two things that are very specific in this, that no more than 1/3 of the commission members may hold any public office in town, and not more than a bare majority shall be members of any one particular party. At a minimum, a lot of the people that put in the work have a public office. So this means that we're going to need a lot of the people from the town to be a part of this. And last time I checked, unless the town attorney can tell me different, you're not getting paid. Okay, so I just want to be clear on that. So anyone that says, hey, you need to, hey, you need to, hey, you need to, hey, you need to, and you're not reading the fact that within 45 days, then within 15 days, then within 30 days, we can't really be in a position where you say you can't show up, because this has to keep moving forward. And I just want to be clear about that. And again, I agree with my fellow counselors, because I have no problem necessarily with opening the charter and going into, because even when I got elected a couple of years ago, I said, what is this? This is outdated. You know, even just technology alone, you know, since the last charter was looked at. But I just really want to be clear about the fact, and again, I agree with Councilor Kazakowski, that this is not something that we politicize and say that, oh, this party or that party did not want to do that because no. You can't be any more transparent about the fact that the commission's draft report in response is due no more than 16 months from the date of the commission's appointment. So I encourage anyone and everyone that wants to comment on this to please take a look at this. This is now in the public record. Read through this and recognize that we are no problem with it, but we also recognize the fact that we do have to be specific in our intentions, especially to Councilor Leidecker's point. We have to have our members already set up. By the time this is put out there, we can't say, oh, we heard that Mrs. King wants to be in this. No, there can't be a we heard. We almost have to have a written contract with people to say, you're committed to doing this. And that's for how long, you said? 2 years, potentially? That's how long that commitment is. So, again, I agree with my fellow counselors on this, but I just wanted to be clear in the fact that sometimes we hear these comments like we're not listening to our residents, but at the same time, we are also thinking about the commitment that needs to be made in regards to these things. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Alonga?
A very small question, so, because I'm not too familiar with this stuff. But this 16 months roughly, that's like set in stone? It has to be all done in that time?
Town attorney?
Yes, that's by statute. That's by state statute.
Councilor Evans?
Thank you. I was only going to say that this is something I think that's been a long time coming. We had previously started this process under the newly elected Mayor Paterna, who's no longer on the council. That was kind of pushed aside by COVID and a pandemic, so we did not successfully progress through those charter revisions. I believe former Councilor Janice Snyder has always been a very big proponent of this. She's here tonight as well. I've heard it was before that I was on the council, that Girl Scouts, which we have some Girl Scout members with us tonight, that came and presented some recommended charter revisions in the pronouns and the words used within the charter that a lot of members of the council were very much in favor of, but could not be changed unless we opened the charter. So I think this has been a long time coming. There's no time like the present. If we are all committed to it and we all want to move forward with this, I think we really devote ourselves and make that commitment to moving it forward and making this something that's going to happen for our town.
Thank you. Okay. Attorney Carrillo, could you walk us through the process of what the council has to do to create this committee? We have the month of August, so if we come back in September with the resolution to create an ordinance, does this have to be created by ordinance or is this created by resolution? And before we answer that question, I wanted to add some more information. The town of Manchester just did a charter revision also. And I also spoke with our town clerk, who knows the charter like the back of her hand. And she said this should have been done 10 years ago, and it should be looked at every 2 to 5 years. So it's very important. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Okay, Attorney Corella, go ahead. What's our timeline here?
Well, your timeline starts when you create the commission. You create it by resolution because that's what the state statute says.
Okay.
All right, so that's the easy one. And then I do recommend, much as many councilmen have said, that you have your names in a row so that when you create the commission, you also say it will be formed, it will be sat with the following people, right?
Okay.
And you have the restrictions there outlined.
Is that council appointment?
Yes, this is all council appointment.
Okay, go ahead.
Yep. You have the not less than 5, not more than 15, not more than 1/3 of may hold public office, and not more than a bare majority shall be from any one political party. So those are your statutory restrictions as to who can sit on the commission. But I recommend, if you want to move forward with this, that you create the commission and you have the list of names to fill those seats. And then their first meeting will be where they choose a chairperson, and they can start the ball rolling from there. And the 16-month starts from the date that your town council appoints the commission.
So the meeting for the commission would have to, their very first meeting would have to come very quickly because they have the 16th months to go forward with that. And
typically what they'll do is after their first sort of organizational meeting, they'll set a date for that first public hearing to start getting input from the town. And because they're required by statute to have 2 public hearings, the first one being before any substantive work commences. So after the organizational meeting and they set their chair people and who's going to be the secretary and when are we going to meet, how often, they set a date for the first public hearing. And then that will be the start of actually the work.
when they do their public hearing, that has to go before the council for us to do the public hearing for them? Or do they hold their own public hearing?
They hold their own public hearing.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
Okay. And town staff would not be on this?
Not on.
Just used as a reference?
Correct. Not as a member of the commission, but will certainly be there, I'm sure. Yeah.
Okay. So prior to us creating this commission, it would behoove this council for us to review the charter, to come up with our own personal list of items that we would like to see covered by this commission. If we did that in the month of August and we submitted our suggestions to Amanda, and Amanda can make a list, if you made the same suggestion I made, then Amanda would see both of us giving that, and she can condense the list and to come back with the list, which would be a discussion item for the first meeting of September. And then you, Attorney Corella, could draft a resolution creating this commission. And also in the meantime, for the month of August, we could be looking for membership of this commission. So when we come back in September, we could look at your resolution between now and September, the first meeting in September, and we can have a list of our X amount of people, and we can decide that evening how many we would like on this commission. And our list could already be submitted, if that's okay with you guys on moving forward. I want to have all the ducks in a row. I want to have them all in the row before that shotgun goes off to start the race, okay? And I want to have it done correctly, and I want to have it done. I already have someone that I know will be perfect for this, and she's sitting in the audience, my buddy Jan. And so, yeah, I know. You're already on the committee there, girl. So on the commission. So I would like to be able to move forward with this in the correct fashion. So if you could lead us with maybe a possible email of the process of how to get this up and running, a timeline. A timeline would be fantastic.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Starting with your September meeting.
Correct. And is everyone in agreeing with that? Okay, Councilor Evans?
I just wanted to clarify, because in this, which is a state statute, correct?
This is a summary of the statutory requirements. It's not the actual state statute.
In the summary, it says, town council adopts a resolution to create a commission. but we have a memorandum from you that says that the town council cannot, by resolution, create a commission or committee.
That's right. This is by state statute. Okay? This is trumps, right, for lack of a better word, right? It controls.
Trumps the charter.
It controls how all towns address their charter. It's state law. Your charter, by its own terms, says that you can only create boards, committees, and commissions by ordinance. And that's other local boards, commissions, committees that are not charter revision commissions, essentially.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Kozakowski?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think this is, we're starting down the path already. So if, I guess I can request if between the two of you, or bring in whoever that you prefer, you think could help, is provide us kind of a list of expectations that we would expect from a commission member, as far as responsibilities, legal responsibilities, time commitments, kind of what they're there for and why they're there, because that could assist counselors in our recruitment process. I know sometimes you have to kind of sugarcoat, sugarcoat positions on
You don't get
volunteer
paid.
boards and commissions to recruit. But I don't think this is one of these commissions where we have the liberty to sugarcoat. This is a real commitment that would require a true commitment from anybody that serves on it. Thanks.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor King.
We are of a like mind. I'm just looking, and I'm no math whiz, I'll admit that. But if we have 5 members, then that means, based on this, that no more than 1/3 of the commission members may hold any public office in town, that 1.65 or 2 of those 5, right? 1, really, yeah. You can't be a holder of public office. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Okay, so the majority of this committee, so 4.
Of the 5, we could have of a 5-member committee, you could have 1 public official.
Okay, just so we're all clear with that. Say again? Oh, I'm sorry. That was cool. So I just want to be clear with that. Also, the only follow-up is, say, for example, we have a situation in which, and again, I'm fine with opening this charter and going down this path, because I do think that some of the things may be outdated. However, say we have the 5, and then someone has a situation in which they can't. We still are held to these timelines, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so somebody is on the committee, and then all of a sudden they say, hey, I'm moving, and we lose one. Doesn't matter, we still got to move forward with this timeline.
Right.
Get replaced.
You can.
Oh, we can replace them, okay.
You can fill the vacancy.
Yes.
Yes. You can
So
always
hopefully
fill
we'll
a
have somebody that we
vacancy.
can fill the vacancy for
Yep.
2 years.
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
And Councilor Kozakowski?
Thank you. To Deputy Mayor's point, I don't think a commission of 5 is going to suit town of South Windsor. It might work for a town that has 2,000 residents, but of a town our size, I think we're probably in the range of maybe around 9 to 11 is probably somewhere where we're going to land. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Kozakowski, I'd just like to address your concerns, and I completely understand the seriousness of the nature of this commission and what they're looking at. The charter is the laws that govern our town, and then the state statutes. Extremely important to follow. And so with moving forward, and maybe we have a consensus on what I've asked from the town attorney to give us a draft resolution on creating this, we can look at the charter to come up with our own suggestions, and we can also look at members that we like to have onto this commission. And maybe in the draft agenda, the draft resolution that you create to create this commission, we can leave debate it that night as to how many members should be on this commission. We can fill in that number once we get a consensus. Could be 7, could be 9, after we have discussion whatever the case may be. So, you know, that's not a dead stop, you know, so, in there, I already have a few folks in mind that I know would be fantastic on this commission. And I know others have too. So if we're all in a consensus with that, Attorney Corella, if you wouldn't mind?
That's fine.
And then printing out us a timeline, please, of the process and make sure we're doing the process correctly. And what is it that we need to do ourselves? And as I said, we need to review the charter ourselves. We need to find people for the commission. Is there anything else that we need to do before September, please?
Not before September. Once you've created the commission, appointed its members, and have set it on its way.
Yes.
They'll hold their first
Right.
public hearing.
Right.
And at that time, it would probably be beneficial for you all to have your recommendations in place so
Right.
that they can start debating those and discussing those. So you have some time after you form it to participate.
To be able to give them their list, to give them our list of items to look at?
Yep.
Okay, that may happen in September, so
Okay.
let's review it. Yep. Counselor Longo?
I just had a question. If the community is interested in reading our charter, where would they get access to it?
Where would they get, our charter is right under the town council on our town website. If they go under government, they'll see town council right there at the very bottom of the first listing on the left. It says ordinances and town charter, and they can read our charter there. And if the citizens have input, Attorney Corella, could they submit their comments to us and we can take those into consideration, or should they wait and hold theirs for when the commission gets created?
They should hold those to the commission, right? So
Okay.
your recommendations are from a certain perspective, right?
Right.
Governmental operation perspective. They may have recommendations or concerns from a public's perspective that might be different. So it really needs to go through, that's the role of the commission, right? That's the role of it. And then they come back to you with their final report and recommendations.
Got it.
So it's probably not it's not appropriate to have you be the filter of those public comments. It goes directly to the council.
Right. Counselor Evans, anything? Your microphone?
Thank you. If we go through the charter and we have questions in August and we have submitted those, are we cut off from providing more
No.
input? We can still then after provide more suggestions or things for the commission to consider?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Great, that's good. So the door is still open. Any other questions?
And remember, it's going to come back to you
Right.
for review. You're the body that puts it onto the referendum. So as you see the final report, you'll say, okay, we don't like that part of it, we don't like this part of it. You can do that. You can pick and choose. You can choose to forward onto the referendum what parts of it you feel are appropriate.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And this was a very healthy discussion. I appreciate everyone's input and comments and questions. Thank you. Moving on. We now have 13F, the discussion on the process and the implementation of the permanent Parks and Recreation facility. And again, Attorney Corella and Mr. Maniscalco, we have received the memorandum in here. This is the discussion item on the implementation, the process to do this. And that's another thing that I was asking about, is the process on how we create the Parks and Rec facility commission or committee. Or moving on, what do we do to get this Park and Rec facility created? Mr. Maniscalco, Attorney Corella?
Yeah, let me start. So I was asked to review this resolution that created a Park and Recreation Facility Planning and Implementation Committee. And that was, I guess, a committee that was intended to find a permanent place for the Parks and Recreation Department once they had to move out of Wapping School. And I think their temporary home is in Old Orchard. So I understand the intention behind that resolution. However, in my opinion, that committee was formed improperly because A, it didn't follow the charter that says that your boards, commissions, and committees need to be formed by ordinance, but also it kind of picked and chose from two different other existing committees and commissions, the Public Building Commission and then the Parks and Recreation Commission. And you kind of conflated the two. That resolution conflated the two. And going forward, you're going to have a lot of problems procedurally, if that committee starts to pick a facility and starts putting a budget around it and starts looking for architects and engineers, none of which that they're really empowered to do. So it's my opinion, and I laid it out here, that you need to have the Public Building Commission, which is a commission that's formed by your charter, whose purpose is to do exactly that for public buildings. Find the location, study it, study the site, make a recommendation to you all, make a recommendation in conjunction and with the approval of the governmental agency that's going to be housed there. So it's not like the Park and Rec is going to be out in the cold. So that would be part of it already, but also put a budget around it, has the ability to recommend engineers and architects and all the things that you're going to have if you're going to fund this through either bond money or however you're going to fund it. And all that needs to be in place properly. What you don't want to find out is at the time that you're looking for bonding money for this, that you didn't create this committee the right way, right? So find out about it now, do it the right way. The Public Building Commission, in my opinion, is the right agency of your government to do that. The Parks and Recreation Commission has obviously necessary input into that process, but their charge is to find locations for swimming pools and recreational facilities and things that the public can use for recreational purposes, not what the government uses for buildings for governmental functions. Because there may come a point in time down the road that they need to move out of that and something else needs to be in there. So long story short, and that's why I laid out in the memo, you need to rescind that resolution. You need to appoint the Public Building Commission as the entity that moves this forward. And the resolution that I drafted encompasses a lot of those concerns.
Thank you. And Mr. Maniscalco, if you could, with the town attorney's help, and according to, we haven't built a public building in our town, a town building, for many, many years. I believe the community center was the last one that we built. And at that time, I'm not sure there was a public building commission. And I'm not sure what the process was. So if we could find out what that process was on how we move forward with looking at a permanent Park and Rec facility, if it's, do we have the Park and Rec director come in here with her ideas, her plans, and then we take it from there and bring it over to public building? Do we go for an 824? Do we talk to Park and, like, what is the process to get this moving? And one of the reasons why it's moving now is because the surveys were done for strategic planning, and the survey was done by the Park and Rec Commission, so they would be able to gather that information also. So I'm not quite sure. I want to make sure our ducks are in a row. I want to make sure we're doing it according to the charter, and I want to make sure that we're all set and ready to go in the proper venue and how to do this. So being that this is a discussion item and you know what I'm asking, maybe you can guide us on the proper procedure.
Yeah, so one item that I think is important to identify is tonight we actually heard a letter read into the record from the Parks and Rec Commission.
Right.
That came forward with kind of a request and a recommendation.
Right.
So I think that can very easily act as their formal request to all of you to do something. And as a result of passing the resolution that's in your packet, I believe that, or in your agenda, that would then move that request onto the Public Building Commission, is my understanding, and then we're off to the races, and it would be the Public Building Commission's responsibility to then work with the Park and Rec Commission in terms of putting all that together and coming forward with a recommendation. So they would, I'm certain, reach out to the Director of Parks and Recreation to find out some of those studies and surveys and all those other things and get some of that other good information that's out there, just that they're making the right, taking the community in the right direction as it's related to that facility.
Would they not also work with the direction of the Park and Rec director?
That's what I just said. They would be reaching out to her to get all of that information that's good for them that would then take us in the right direction.
And what I understand from the town attorney is that he had mentioned the Public Building Commission picks where the town offices would be. But if the town, and then the Park and Rec Commission may pick a place where a pool is going to go or a tennis court's going to go. If we build a building that's a Park and Rec department or the park and rec facility that has the gym in it, or basketball court, or indoor pool, or what have you, then they would have to work together to, and all three basically, it would be probably more than that, because you need planning and zoning, you need inland wetlands, but Park and Rec would make their recommendation, Public Building would make their recommendation, and the director of the Park and Rec Committee would make their recommendation to create a building or a facility to house the needs of our Park and Rec department. How does this council start this process? And I'm not sure I agree with you on the resolution that we have before us this evening, for the fact that this resolution dissolves that old committee. And I don't want to quite put it onto because I've heard complaints about the Public Building Commission, and they've scheduled extra meetings because they're still not done with Pleasant Valley School. So is there a way that we could create separate a resolution moving this facility forward on its own entity and not including in the dissolving resolution? Because they're two acts, two separate acts, as far as I'm concerned. One is dissolving the old committee, and then one is moving this forward into building a new facility. So is there a way that we could, to do it in a better or cleaner way? Attorney Corella?
You guys can do whatever you want. The resolution is there to address the concerns. If you want to take a vote on the dissolution of the Facility Implementation Committee that was formed previously by resolution, you can do that, and not refer this on to the Public Building Commission.
We could come back at a later date, say September, and refer this on, or have, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but we could have the director of the Park and Rec Department come forward if there is any idea or plan or anything, and show it to the council so we can take it, because we really haven't heard from her saying we need a facility.
Yeah, I think if you read the powers and duties of the Public Building Commission, a lot of what you've been discussing is laid out there, and it's really their purview as to how to proceed. You don't have to direct them, and the Parks and Recreation Commission doesn't have to direct them to a certain site. So the powers and duties of the Public Building Commission are, I'm going to read them because I think it answers a lot of your questions, and I'll summarize them. But generally responsible for the planning and construction of public buildings. They are charged to study sites and building locations, and shall, in cooperation with the Town Planning and Zoning Commission, recommend appropriate sites to the council. It also will recommend to the council appropriations, right, for each building project. It has discretion to select an architect for a project and such other professionals as might be required. They have the ability to obtain approval for such plans as the town or federal state agencies may require, so inland wetlands and P&Z and Army Corps, depending on where this is located. Approval by the town government body that will administer the building, Park and Rec, after its completion, shall be required in each instance. So the Public Building Commission can't proceed with a Park and Rec department without the Park and Rec input, okay? It's required by your ordinance. Seek competitive bids for the construction of each project. So your referral to the Public Building Commission of go find a suitable permanent home for Park and Rec is all that's necessary.
At this time?
At this time.
At this time, right. Yeah. And then they would work. They have their charges to do whatever else they have to do.
They would follow their charge and their public duties right here.
Because like I said, I just want to make sure all our ducks in a row. We're filing the charter, the state statutes, whatever it is. And we have questions. Councilor Evans. Oh, Councilor Leidecker?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, I think we do definitely need to dissolve the original committee, just because it wasn't created appropriately. With regards to if the Public Building Commission is maybe not prepared for this because they're still finishing up Pleasant Valley, I think that's going to kind of go into my question, which is, it does say in the memo here that there's a suggestion that we provide a deadline to the PBZ for this. So I think we can, and that's going to be my question to maybe Mr. Maniscalco, how much time is appropriate? Are we talking a 1-year deadline, and then they can finish Pleasant Valley and have 8 or 9 months to start working with Park and Rec and the Park and Rec Commission to get this up and running? Are we talking an 18-month deadline? But I think we can kind of make that manageable for them with the finishing up of Pleasant Valley.
I mean, so the Pleasant Valley School project, from an administrative standpoint, is going to carry on probably for at least another year. There will be punch list items that need to get done. There's going to be reports that need to get done to the state. There's going to be a whole laundry list of things that'll be done. That being said, the work that needs to be done substantively at the Public Building Commission level is probably going to taper off September timeframe, I'm guessing, and probably taper off even further from there over the coming years. So, I mean, I think a year is a fair amount of time to give them. That gives them the real opportunity to get out and talk to the community, get community input as to certain locations, and to gain a better understanding of really what the department needs itself. I know the director's already done some pretty good programming and space needs and things of that nature, and the Public Building Commission could probably sit down with that and give that a good review to understand it as well. So I think a year is a really fair timeline.
And then with regards to, because I know the original commission, when they were looking for a temporary facility, did do quite a bit of work. I think they actually hired some professionals to come in and give recommendations. Can we somehow in the resolution give them the authority for the Public Building Commission to have access to all the work that that commission did, including all the reports of the experts, et cetera, so they can kind of hit the ground running on what's been looked at?
Well, those reports are work product that belong to the town as a whole. It's not like that just belongs to that committee because it was purchased by the town, so that's a work product that's owned by the town. So I know if the Public Building Commission reached out to my office or the Parks and Recreation Department, we would provide that information to them. So that's very easy to get.
So maybe we don't wait for them to reach out to us, maybe whether it's Ms. Keys or whether it's maybe yourself, we provide that information to them after we pass this resolution saying, here, this is what we're hoping you can do, have our information, and let's
kind of
hit the
my
ground running.
game plan, or at least my thoughts, is that, you know, once the council makes the motion to move this forward to the Public Building Commission, Ms. Keys and myself are going to be reaching out to them, and we'll send forward all that information. I mean, Ms. Keys alone has done a significant amount of research just to determine what the department needs, and the Parks and Recreation Committee has done some more recent surveys of the community of what the community wants. We have some of the information from the Strategic Planning Committee that has some community needs involved associated with Parks and Rec as well. So all of those things can get forwarded onto the Public Building Commission for them to really look at it and make a decision.
Thank you.
Councilor Evans?
Thank you. So I just want to go back to the original resolution creating the committee, just for clarification's sake, which we should not have created it, that's fine, separate point. But number 6 actually said the committee shall be dissolved at the completion of the proposed project or the failure of a referendum to allocate resources for a proposed project. So technically, this committee has not fulfilled its duty. Its role was never to find a temporary place. It was to find a permanent home or fail at referendum at finding a permanent home. So just clarification. Second clarification is that the membership, you said it was combining public building and park and recreation.
My intention was to say that the duties that were prescribed, the 1 through 6 there, right? Some of that is from the Public Building Commission's charges. Some of it's from the Park and Rec's charges. So that's, yep.
My misunderstanding,
Nope, that's
because I was going to say there was only one member of public building and only one member of park and recreation, so it was, you know, a vast group. Additionally, you know, like others have said, it doesn't sound like we need to rush into this. I think even in your final paragraph, you suggested some review of this before we move forward with it, to make sure that you, as well as the mayor and the town manager, are comfortable with it. I'm not sure, since we received this on the 12th and we received our packets the next day, that review, that time was taken. So I think that we owe it to this resolution to really take that time, maybe dissolve the committee, and then move forward with the creation of the recommendation to move ahead with Public Building Commission. Also, with Public Building Commission being busy, again, sounds like there's no rush. Also, if we were to put Public Building Commission in a situation where they are overwhelmed, can they reject this designation, this requirement on our end? Can they say no?
No.
My final question is the Park and Rec survey. That is still very much in progress. That was part of their plan through the summer, through community events. It is not completed. So just wondering how strong of a need there is still for that survey for this going forward, for the Park and Rec Commission to continue on that work. I don't know. I don't know who I'm asking that, but.
I'm not a Park and Rec person. I don't know how, I think any information, if you don't mind, I think any information that we can give to the Public Building Commission to help them on their way, whatever's happened with the past, paying the money for the survey or having the surveys done or bringing in all the information or whatever the director of Park and Rec has to offer to the Public Building Commission to ease up their tasks and their job, I think it would be beneficial. Councilor Kozakowski?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to echo Councilor Evans' concern about, or not concern, but suggestion of taking our time. Let's not rush into something because we might find ourselves in an overwhelming situation. I'd like to hear from the chair of the Public Building Commission and the Parks Facility Committee, and have that person weigh in on this process. I'd also like to hear from Councilor Kubowski, who's the liaison to the Public Building Commission, get a sense of making sure that we're not doing any sort of disservice to the Public Building Commission on our end. I'm not comfortable with proceeding in a way that describes our creating of that facilities committee, doing it improperly or doing it in an inappropriate way. Reason being is that, number one, in doing so, it could in some way discredit the amount of work that they put into the charge that we asked them. Councilor Evans, I know that we went around soliciting people to serve on this committee, and it took a lot of convincing from time to time for people to make that commitment. And I would hate to think that their effort that they put through was in vain. It was an opportunity to reach out to the public, to get members of the public to help participate in the process. And I want to honor that work that they did. Also, this committee was formed by a resolution, like we know, as well as many other committees that our townspeople volunteer on throughout the town. Another matter before us tonight is the approving of the town strategic plan that was drafted and gone through the effort by a committee very similar to the facilities. And I don't want to discredit any of their work in the process with the idea that maybe they weren't formed properly. There are also other longstanding committees that I think were created by resolution, not ordinance, such as the Energy Committee or the Capital Improvement Committee. I did a quick survey of our town ordinances and didn't find any ordinance that formed the creation of those. So I think we should kind of get a better sense of the lay of the land here. Maybe get some type of inventory of all our committees and boards and see, how they came into fruition before we make a rash decision on this committee. Thank you.
Councilor Lidecker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I don't mind taking the time to review, but I don't want to take too long. We have to owe it to our Park and Rec department, who have now moved 3 times. So in my short tenure here, which is 5 years, they started at the community center. I'm not sure if they were somewhere before that. That was before my time. Then they've moved to Wapping, and now they've moved to Old Orchard Hill. So we have put an enormous burden on our Park and Rec department to move their facilities and to manage and continue the programming that our town is expecting. This ranges from preschool to camps to pickleball, I think. I mean, you name it, they run the gamut for our town. So while I have no problem saying, let's do it correctly, I'm not waiting 6 months for us to get our ducks in a row to make sure that we're gonna have a proper ordinance to take a year to find them another facility. So I think this is something else that we're tasked with to do our homework over the month of August. And I think we need to come back in September and we need to be ready to go, whether it's dissolving, whether it's creating this ordinance, but we owe it to them for what they do to our town. And I don't think anybody's up here discrediting the work that went into the original Facilities Commission. They did an enormous amount of work, and that's all going to translate over to the PBC. But we can't hold too long saying we're biting off more than we can chew, because they need a home, and they offer a plethora of services to our town, and we need to give them that home. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Evans?
Thank you. So I think you kind of touched on what I was going to say, is that again, August being our month off is not really our month off this year. I think we have a lot of work to do to come back and have a very productive meeting in September. I also want to clarify by saying that committee not completing their duties, I did not mean that in a negative way, only that there was more work for them to do despite the dissolving. I was the liaison for that committee, and there was a lot of work done. That group was really committed, and it was some people on commissions, it was also just community members. So I think the resources that they have put into it, as well as the Park and Rec Commission, and the commitments that everyone has made, we really do, as Councilor Lidecker said, owe it to our Park and Rec department to have this on our agenda, all set, ducks in the row, as you say, Madam Mayor, for our first meeting in September.
Thank you. And if I may, looking at everything, giving the Public Building Commission a deadline, let's say it's a year. They come back, and if they don't meet that deadline within a year, we can extend that deadline, could we not? We could. I mean, everybody has to work together here. Yes. This is a 3-year project, at least a 3-year project. I mean, you're going to be spending a whole year just gathering information, or a 4-year project. This isn't going to happen tomorrow. This is going to have to go out to referendum. This is going to have, go out to bid. It could possibly be a 3-4 year project. So the sooner we get started on this, the better. Yes, and to take in all the work from the past committee to give this to the Public Building Commission, absolutely. And the chair of that past committee is the chair of the Public Building Commission. So he has access to all that information too. So moving forward, like I say, I don't know if it's a separate resolution for the first meeting in September to move this on to the Public Building Commission, or if we do that in tonight's resolution, maybe we can just leave that section off at the bottom and we can bring it up in September with the Public Building Commission chairperson, or however, what do you suggest that we do, Mr. Attorney Carella? Yeah. We know we have to dissolve this old committee. That resolution has to go forward.
I think you can choose how you want to proceed. You can do a portion of it tonight if you'd like. You can table the whole thing till September. It sounds like you want to, again, to beat a dead horse, to get your ducks in a row, and, right? So I think if the month of August gives you the opportunity to kind of get all those Facility and Planning and Implementation Committee documents over to Public Building Commission and meet with the Public Building Commission and see what their schedule's like and what their workload is like, and you have a better sense in September of how you want to proceed in terms of a timeline, I think that makes some sense.
Everybody's thinking. It's a discussion item. So we can continue to move forward with the resolution this evening and dissolving the old committee and then move forward in September, or we can just continue with the resolution, looking at the resolution and get it done. Okay. So not seeing any more conversation. We're all good with that for now. Let's move on to, thank you, Attorney Corello. 13G, please. Councilor Leidecker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution waiving the bidding process. Whereas Connecticut General Statute, Section 4A-53A, allows the Commissioner of Administrative Services, the Commissioner, to serve as the contracting agent for a group of 3 or more municipalities that seek to purchase supplies, materials, or equipment upon the request of such group, provided that 1, the Commissioner determines that the group will achieve a cost savings through the Commissioner serving as the contracting agent, and 2, such cost savings are greater than the administrative costs to the state, and whereas Connecticut General Statute, Section 7-148V subsection B allows the town of South Windsor, the town, to purchase equipment, supplies, materials, or services from the list of eligible entities listed in the statute, and whereas the town is constrained in its ability to purchase equipment, supplies, and materials pursuant to the Town Charter Section 714, and whereas pursuant to Section 714, the town has a $5,000 cap on purchases without the town manager inviting sealed bids or proposals or getting the town council to waive such bidding process. And whereas Section 714 is a constraint on the town's ability to achieve cost savings because during the waiver process, supplies disappear or the opportunity to implement cost savings has changed. And whereas the town council has determined that requiring sealed bids for purchases greater than $5,000 is not in the best interest of the town. Now, therefore, be it resolved that notwithstanding Section 714, the Town Council authorizes the town manager to participate with the state of Connecticut contracting programs for the purchase of supplies, materials, or equipment pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 4A-53A. Be it further resolved that notwithstanding Section 714, the Town Council authorizes the town manager to purchase equipment, supplies, materials, or services from the list of eligible entities listed in Connecticut General Statute, Section 7-148V, subsection B. Further resolved that notwithstanding Section 714, the Town Council has determined that the $5,000 threshold requiring sealed bids for the purchase of equipment, supplies, or materials is an impediment to the efficient operations of the town and is not in the best interest of the town, and hereby authorizes the town manager to waive the bidding requirements for the purchase of equipment, supplies, or materials for contracts valued at $25,000 or less for the remainder of the 2023-2024 fiscal year. Further resolved that nothing in this resolution shall abrogate the provisions of Charter Section 1001 requiring disclosure of financial interests by any elected or appointed town official, board or commission member, or employee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on this? I think we discussed it before. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. Thank you. The motion carries. Councilor Kozakowski, 13H.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
Councilor Lopez.
Yeah, I would like to ask the town attorney if there's a shorter version of this resolution.
Yes, absolutely. What was published in the agenda is the actual entire tax abatement agreement. I'm not too sure how that got published that way, but really what this item is intended to do, the town council already approved a tax abatement agreement for this property. However, it named the Berry Equipment is the operator of the location and not the property owner. Since this is a tax abatement agreement, it has to be with the property owner. The property owner is 1608 John Fitch Boulevard, LLC. So what this was intended to do was is just correct that name. I think if you simply maybe run through the whereases and resolve that 1608 John Fitch Boulevard LLC is the recipient of that tax abatement agreement, I think that should be sufficient to correct that for this evening.
Councilor Kozakowski, you okay with that?
I'm okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm okay with that, and I think I'll be able to do it right.
There you go.
All right. 13H, motion to approve resolution approving an offer of a tax assessment agreement with 1608 John Fitch Boulevard, LLC. This agreement is entered into this 70th day of July 2023, the effective date, by and between the town of South Windsor, a municipal corporation and body politic having its corporate limits limited within the County of Hartford and the state of Connecticut, with offices located at 1540 Sullivan Avenue, South Windsor, Connecticut, 06074. Herein after the town and 1608 John Fitch Boulevard LLC, a Connecticut limited liability company with offices located at 18 Garrison Heights, Oxford, Massachusetts, hereinafter 1608 John Fitch Boulevard LLC, to fix the real property tax assessment on the real property and improvements therein known as 1608 John Fitch Boulevard, South Windsor, Connecticut, the property for a limited period of time as described below. Whereas, in accordance with the South Windsor Economic Development Commission's prior approval of an economic development project for the property consisting of 5,000 square foot, of the 5,000 square foot expansion of an existing building owned by 1608 John Fitch Boulevard LLC, the project. 1608 John Fitch Boulevard LLC has requested that the town agree to fix the real property taxes that would be due on the developed property for a limited period of time. And whereas 1608 John Fitch Boulevard LLC, as the current owner of the property, is responsible for the real property taxes associated with the property. And whereas 1608 John Fitch Boulevard LLC has made the estimated improvements of over $750,000 in cost for the completion of the project. And whereas at the end of the tax fixing period of this agreement, as it applies to the fixing the tax assessment for the property, all buildings, improvements, and land shall be assessed at a fair market value in accordance with the town's standard practices for property and buildings of this nature and state law. And whereas an agreement between the town and 1608 John Fitch Boulevard LLC fixing the real property tax assessment on the property is in the best interests of the town. And whereas pursuant to Section 12-65B of the Connecticut General Statutes, the Town Council duly authorizes the town manager to enter into this agreement by affirmative vote at the Town Council meeting of March 3rd, 2021, which resolution was amended to the corrected taxpayer name on July 17, 2023. And whereas the project has obtained a permanent certificate of occupancy as of June 14, 1971, and whereas in consideration of its desire to assist 1608 John Fitch Boulevard LLC in the building and financing of the project, and as authorized pursuant to Section 12-65B of the Connecticut General Statutes, the town is willing to enter into a tax fixing agreement under the terms and conditions of this agreement. And this is where I'm going to shift off of the agenda. Now therefore be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council is pleased to offer a tax assessment agreement between the town and 1608 John Fitch Boulevard LLC, reducing the amount of the estimated real property assessment by 60% for the first year, 50% of the second year, and 40% of the third year, with an estimated tax benefit reduction of approximately $30,000 total over the 3 years, commencing with the grand list following the date of the certificate of occupancy is issued for the real property, provided, however, that if such assessment is changed by any future town revaluation, the new assessed value of the real property shall be reduced by the percentage applicable to the year within the 3-year period of such assessment is changed. And be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council's offer to 1608 John Fitch Boulevard LLC is conditioned upon 1608 John Fitch Boulevard LLC, number one, meeting the estimated $750,000 construction cost figure and agreeing to the estimated assessment figure, and 2, continuing to pay the real estate taxes on the facility for a minimum of 10 years from the date of the certificate of occupancy issued. If 1608 John Fitch Boulevard LLC fails to meet either of these conditions, 1608 John Fitch Boulevard LLC shall refund the town of South Windsor all of its tax benefit reductions it has received. And be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council's offer is contingent upon 1608 John Fitch Boulevard LLC's execution of a written agreement reflecting the terms set forth in the resolution and such other terms as the town may require.
Thank you. Is there a second? And that was Councilor Evans, second that. And is there any discussion? None? Oh, go ahead, Councilor Kozakowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just something caught my eye in let's see, the 1, 2,
Page.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th whereas clause on page 7, where it states that the project obtained a permanent certificate of occupancy as of June 14th, 1971. That seems wrong. Can I have a clarification?
Yeah, there's no certificate of occupancy for that facility yet, so I don't know why that's in there, but. Do you want to do a friendly amendment, maybe to remove that?
Remove that sentence, yeah.
Okay, I motion to strike that entire whereas
You
clause.
can't do
Oh, I
that.
can't?
No, someone else, please. Deputy Mayor King?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that we strike on page 7 of 12, whereas the project has obtained a permanent certificate of occupancy as of June 14th, 1971. If we could please strike that from this resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. Any opposed? Okay, then none? I hear none. The motion carries. Okay. And we need to do the whole, okay, the original? So all those in.
Discussion.
More discussion?
More
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to make sure, I wasn't part of the council in March of 2021 when this was approved. Can you just, maybe Attorney Correll, just explain why we see this before us tonight?
Well, yeah, as I said earlier, the resolution that was approved in March of 2021, I believe, had the agreement between the town and Berry Equipment as the recipient of the tax abatement agreement. And since the taxes that are to be abated are with the property owner, this was really, the intention was just to correct that resolution. And what you read from tonight was the resolution from 2021 and just substituting the name of the correct property owner. Again, I don't know exactly, what was in the packet was really the draft agreement. I'm not too sure how that got into the agenda. It was really just designed to be a resolution, but anyway, so that's the purpose of tonight, this resolution.
Okay, thank you. And a question from Mr. Maniscalco. So the owner, tenant, whoever built the addition that was subject to this abatement?
Correct.
Okay. Did they obtain permits and proceed after the council agreed to give an abatement?
Correct.
Okay, so this, so we would be doing them an extreme disservice if we were to not move forward with this resolution.
Correct.
Very correct. Okay, no more questions, thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. Thank you. The motion carries. We are on page 9, and that's 13I. Councilor Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution approving an agreement between the Town of South Windsor and South Windsor Non-Supervisory Professional Employees Union. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the proposed agreement between the Town of South Windsor and South Windsor Non-Supervisory Professional Employees Union, an affiliate of the Nutmeg Independent Public Safety Employees Union, NIPSEU, for the period of July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2026.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. Thank you. The motion carries. 13J, Councilor Kozakowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Motion to approve resolution approving the final draft of the Strategic Planning Committee. Whereas the South Windsor Town Council passed a resolution on March 2nd, 2020 that was amended on June 21st, 2021, creating a Strategic Planning Committee to review and update the town's strategic plan. And whereas the Strategic Planning Committee conducted citizen surveys, focus groups, and reviewed other municipal strategic plans. And whereas the Town Council held 2 public hearings to receive citizen input on the drafted strategic plan. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the updated strategic plan from the Strategic Planning Committee. Be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council directs the town manager to implement the recommendations of the strategic plan over the next 10 years.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Councilor Kozakowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to thank everybody that volunteered on the Strategic Planning Committee. I want to thank Jan Snyder for chairing that committee. She can conduct a productive meeting that ends at an appropriate time like no other. It was a great cross-section of individuals, both public servants and staff and members of the public to participate in this endeavor. Just want to say that when prior to the to filling the committee, there was one person that reached out to me to express interest, and I confessed and expressed interest and wanted to get more information on it. And I confessed to this individual that it's always been one of my secret nerdy dreams to participate in a strategic planning process like this was. I'm proud to have been part of that process and serving as liaison to the committee, and thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I concur with Councilor Kozakowski. We served on this committee together as liaisons, and I would suggest to our public that in regards to this final resolution, that the committee worked extremely well together. There wasn't politics, there wasn't, everybody realized that we were here for the town of South Windsor, period, and what could be best for the town. There were differences of opinion, but they were talked through, and even if you did not necessarily agree, you had to agree that whatever that individual felt, it was again in the best interest of the town of South Windsor. And so I am also extremely happy to be a part of this process and to see this go through, to see the work that needs to go in regards to directing the town manager to implement the recommendations and to just see the fruit of that labor, because it was definitely something also to add, the young people that were also on the committee were phenomenal. And so we definitely had a cross-section of not just public officials, but also young people that put in their input and said, no, this is what we want to see, this is what we need to see. And I thought that was also extremely welcomed. So thank you very much, Chair, and to the committee. Excellent job.
Thank you. Any other comments? Counselor Evans?
Just wanted to ask our town attorney, since this committee was formed under resolution, does that create an issue for us? I don't want to belittle the work of the committee. I fully appreciate the work they did, and I think we should move ahead with this. Just from a legal standpoint, in light of the new information we have about creating committees, just wanted to clarify.
I think you're free to accept the Strategic Planning Committee's report and thank them for their service. I think that's fine. They're not binding the town to any fiscal obligation. It's a planning report. And so unlike the Facilities and Implementation Committee, which had the possibility of going down that path, I think this is a little bit more benign. I will say, however, one of those things that you need to look at in the charter is that section regarding the appointment and formation of committees, boards, and commissions by ordinance. That's what your charter says.
Amanda, make note of that. Thank you. And thank you, Strategic Planning Committee. Good job, good job. I know what it's like. Great job. Thank you. Thank you to everyone that worked so hard. Great job. And so we did the second, we did discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. Thank you. And now we're on to 13K. Councilor Siracusa.
Resolution approving a transfer of $3,190 from the contingency account to the mini matching grant account. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves a transfer of $3,190 from the contingency account to go into the mini matching grant account to fund an approved grant to the Historical Society.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, discussion. I'm sorry. Councilor Evans.
I just wanted to clarify, this was the second half that we had told the Historical Society kind of a wait on, see how our winter went. And can you just, do you remember what this is for?
Correct,
Is it
yeah,
for the
so
tree?
they came in requesting a mini matching grant. I believe they had to remove some trees by the schoolhouse. And as a result, we didn't have all the money in the mini matching grant line item, but we had it in our contingency line item, but we wanted to wait till we got through the winter, so we're fulfilling the remaining portion of our promise.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. Councilor Longo, 13L, please.
13L is a resolution approving the transfer of $23,220 from the contingency account to the South Windsor Volunteer Fire Department grants and contributions account. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves a transfer of $23,220 from the contingency account to go into the SWVFD grants and contributions account to cover unexpected costs associated with the cleanup of PFAS.
Is there a second?
Second.
And is there any discussion? Mr. Maniscalco, could you please inform us of what this means, please?
Sure. So the state of Connecticut, probably about 2 years ago, identified that there's a chemical that was being used by many of our fire departments across the state called PFAS. PFAS is in a foam that's sprayed on fires that are difficult to put out with water, for lack of a better explanation. Unfortunately, when that foam is used, it has the ability to get, that chemical has the ability to get into our water systems and water table. And then when ingested by humans, it has some detrimental health impacts. So the state of Connecticut has moved away from allowing people to use PFAS and has directed all of our fire departments across the state to remove that foam from any of their fire trucks. Our fire department took that action immediately when that was that recommendation was made, but we have to also pay for the remediation of the chemicals that are there. So these funds would be reimbursing the fire department for the remediation of that chemical.
Thank you. Okay, and no further discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. Councilor Evans, a resolution dissolving, 13M.
13M, resolution dissolving the Parks and Recreation Facility Planning and Implementation Committee. Whereas the South Windsor Town Council previously approved a resolution creating a Park and Recreation Facility Planning and Implementation Committee at their December 6, 2021 Town Council meeting. And whereas the South Windsor Town Council approved a subsequent resolution at their February 7, 2022 meeting, amending the original resolution forming the Park and Recreation Facility Planning and Implementation Committee. And whereas a purpose in forming the Park and Recreation Facility Planning and Implementation Committee was, among others, to identify and vet locations for the South Windsor Park and Recreation Department offices as a result of its prior location in Wapping School being used by the Board of Education to meet the needs of the increased student population expected by July 1, 2023. And whereas Section 305 of the Town Charter provides that the Town Council shall have the power by ordinance to create or abolish boards, commissions, and committees except those provided by the Charter. Whereas Section 502 of the Town Charter provides that the Town Council shall appoint a public building commission consisting of 7 members, and whereas the Public Building Commission was established pursuant to the Town Charter and has among its powers and duties the power to study sites and building locations for public buildings as may be proposed by other branches of the town government, and shall, in cooperation with the Town Planning and Zoning Commission, recommend appropriate sites to the Town Council, and that the approval by the town government body that will administer the building after its completion shall be required in each instance. Town Code of Ordinances 2-172-3 and 2-172-6. And whereas the identification, study, and recommendation of a location for the Park and Recreation Department offices should be assigned to the Public Building Commission with the input from the Parks and Recreation Commission and the Parks and Recreation Department, and in cooperation with the Town Planning and Zoning Commission to recommend an appropriate location to the Town Council in accordance with the powers and duties provided to the Public Building Commission by Charter and by Ordinance 2-172. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the Public Building Commission is hereby directed to coordinate the receipt of recommendations from the Parks and Recreation Commission, the Town Manager, and the Director of Parks and Recreation Department to identify a site and building location for the Parks and Recreation Department offices pursuant to the powers and duties of the Public Building Commission, and shall, in cooperation with the Town Planning and Zoning Commission, recommend an appropriate site for the Parks and Recreation Department offices to the Town Council. And be it further resolved that the Park and Recreation Commission is hereby directed to coordinate with and provide its recommendation to the Public Building Commission as to the identification of possible sites and building locations for the Park and Recreation Department offices. And be it further resolved that the Town Manager and Director of the Park and Recreation Department are hereby directed to coordinate with and each provide the recommendation to the Public Building Commission as to the identification and proposed sites and building locations for the Park and Recreation Department offices. And be it further resolved that the resolution creating a Park and Recreation Facility Planning and Implementation Committee dated December 6, 2021, and further amended on February 7, 2022, is hereby rescinded, and that committee is hereby dissolved. Be it further resolved that the Public Building Commission shall provide its report identifying a site and building location for the Parks and Recreation Department offices to the Town Council not later than a date set forth by the Town Council at the adoption of this resolution, such date being subject to future amendment by the Town Council.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Councilor Kozakowski.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to postpone a vote on this item to a future meeting to provide more opportunity for evaluation and discussion of the merits of the item.
The merits of the item?
The merits of it.
Okay. Is there any other discussion?
Do we need a date specific that it's postponed to? Do we have to provide the date of which September meeting?
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you mean by the merits of this item. The merits are that we have to dissolve the old committee.
My motion is made. I'd like to amend my motion to specify the date of the next council meeting held in September.
Okay, September 1st. To postpone this until September 1st, that's what you want to do?
Correct.
Okay. Well, this is the first meeting in September.
First meeting in September.
Yes, not September 1st, but the first meeting in September. Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Okay. Is there any discussion on the motion that's on the table? Deputy Mayor King.
While I seconded it in the original, I do think that based on the conversations that we've had tonight, I do think it warrants that we just make sure, since that seems to be the saying of the day, our ducks in a row, and that we do this properly. And once it gets through, I agree with something that Councilor Kazakasa said earlier, especially in regards to strategic planning. This group obviously did put in a lot of work, so on and so forth, to just make sure that everything goes through as it needs to. We have it in the first meeting, and then just keep it moving.
Councilor Evans?
Thank you. I was going to say, I think that based on the conversation we had earlier, there's nothing that's going to happen with this committee or the direction we give to the Public Building Commission between now and our first meeting in September, that I think it makes sense for us just to give it this month, kind of get it all set. You know, I think even the town attorney had said it could use some review, and it was only sent to us the end of last week. So I think it benefits us all to take just a month. I don't want to wait longer than that to review it and have it all set for our first meeting in September.
Okay, any other discussion? Not seeing any? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, any opposed? Not hearing any? Okay, the motion carries. Moving on, item 14, passionate ordinance. There is none. Item 15, public input for any matter. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to the council on any matter that's not on the agenda? Please come forward. I know you waited all night. Thank you. Yes. And just hit the button on the microphone and identify who you are, please. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anamishra Rawat, and I live at 19 Rockwell Court, South Windsor, Connecticut, 06074. Firstly, greeting to all the members of the Town Council, and thank you for the opportunity to speak briefly in front of you, and congratulations to the new Town Council members. I am a graduate of the class of 2023 from South Windsor High School, and I'll be attending Cornell University this coming fall in the College of Engineering, and I'll be majoring in computer science, and I'll be minoring in robotics with a specialization in artificial intelligence. I'm here, and I'm also an ambassador Girl Scout, part of the South Windsor Girl Scout Troop 10901. And the reason I'm here in front of you today is I'm speaking to highlight and briefly summarize my efforts in the past year or so in and out of this community to obtain my Girl Scouts Gold Award, which is the highest award a Girl Scout can get. My project was called Speak STEM Learning. The premise of this project was that to this day, there's a huge disparity between females and males in the STEM workforce. And despite the many initiatives that are happening, we still haven't reached an equilibrium of 50-50 females and males in the workforce. Using this issue as a driving force of my project was a mix of multiple mini projects. With the help of the South Windsor Public Library, I was able to hold the first mini project, which was an all-girls camp in the town, and I had girls aged from ages 8 through 13 in and out of South Windsor, actually ranging all over Connecticut. In the summer camp, I held multiple teamwork, communication, and STEM-based activities with these girls, and one of the things that really stuck with me that I wanted to share with all of you is that girls that were in elementary school were telling me that when they were at science clubs, they told me they felt left out. They told me that they felt that they didn't belong. And when I heard multiple girls younger, like almost a decade younger than me saying that, I was like, I need to do something, and this is why girls like me who are up here, we should be the motivation and a leader for them. So that was one of the things that drove me to keep working to my project, and not even just my project, but just in general. So the second part of my project was a 4-week camp where I taught programming in the programming language Java, not just to kids in South Windsor, but actually internationally. I had kids that were boys and girls from the United States, Canada, and interest from India, although I couldn't get the India kids because there was a really big time zone difference, so I needed to account for the kids. And then as this project is coming to a close because I am going to college soon, I got the help of the South Windsor Parks and Rec Department and the South Windsor Farmer Market to hold a booth and, you know, just outreach to all the families and children. I had games and I had just the flyers that the clerk of the council passed out to you. And I hope that in the future, as I return from college and for breaks, I'm able to hold camps like this again and partner with the leaders and organizations in our town to keep this initiative going. I slogan my project as STEM is for everyone, regardless of gender, race, or sexuality. This project was not just something I felt I needed to do just because I'm a Girl Scout and I have to get the Gold Award. I felt intrinsically passionate to do something like this for the community because I feel sometimes it goes unheard how difficult it can be to be a female interested in STEM and trying to participate in these activities. With this project, I was not looking to just teach people what STEM is and what careers or life paths it has to offer. Instead, with this project, my goal was to instill a sense of security and create a sense of community that nurtures girls in STEM. I believe that initiatives like this should start small in our community and grow, because with initiatives like this in our town, we can create a future generation of girls and boys even to be strong-minded, independent, and confident individuals. I was fortunate enough to have my parents, like my mom and my dad, my troop leaders, teachers, and members from this town to be the motivation for me, and I want to be the motivation for the coming generations. I would like to thank the town council for its continued support to the South Windsor Public Schools, and high school, middle school. Although I wasn't in the public system for the elementary, for middle school and high school, they've provided me with a nurturing educational environment and being incredibly proactive about pushing girls into STEM, which allowed me to pursue my interests. I was especially grateful that the South Windsor Public Schools partnered with FIRST Robotics and the National Science Olympiad. I was on the robotics team, the Science Olympiad team, and Interact Rotary Club, so I was very well versed and interacted with many members of the community. This has transformed me into the person I am today, and I would like to thank you all once again for the continued support in aiding me and the children and adults who are looking to pursue their interests in outreach in the community and looking to make a difference. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Congratulations on graduating and good luck in college. Good job. Good luck at Columbia, girl. Good job. Cornell, sorry. Sorry, Cornell, sorry. Okay, now we have anyone else from the public would like to speak to the council on any matter not on the agenda? Anyone else from the public? Going third time, anyone else from the public? Like to speak to the council on any item not on the agenda? Not seeing any, we'll move on. Communications from the council. Is there any communications from the council? Council Deputy Mayor King.
The only thing that I wanted to say is congrats again to our chief of the police for full staff hiring for South Windsor. It's a very big deal. I have a lot of friends that are in other towns that are really searching to fill out their police department for a number of different reasons. And the fact that not only does he have a full staff, but also, in my opinion, it is extremely diverse. I appreciated that, and I just wanted to put that on the record. Also, for our sister, before you leave.
Hey, don't leave yet. Hang on, grab her.
Hold on 1 second.
Terry, grab her.
Yes, Sister Wow. So I want to put you in touch because sometimes I believe that I don't want you to have to duplicate efforts. So great job. There's someone that I want to put you in touch with who runs the girlsfortechnology.org. This way you can not only have the resources, and this is a black female, she's been doing this for a little while, but you are actually going down the same path for the same reasons, which is huge. She has a bunch of funding, which is usually the problem with anything like this. And so I want to put you in touch with her so that she knows that she has somebody from the younger generation that's also trying to do this so that you're not duplicating efforts and trying to get out there and get the information that. So I just wanted to put that out there. Congratulations, great job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anything else?
Thank you.
I'd like to ask the town manager, the Fair Rent Housing Commission that was created, can we post that on our website? Because the folks who should be getting in touch with myself or you or the clerk of the council if they're interested in going on that. Is there some way that we can advertise that? Because we don't have members that are appointed yet. I know that we want to appoint them all at the same time. And let's figure out, how we can get that on our website or on the electronic board or whatever we can do to ask members of our community to help serve on that. Great, thank you. And is there, we are on the last item, which is motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. The motion carries, thank you.